Hello and happy new year to the entire community. Yes, that means Xbox gamers, PlayStation gamers, and Nintendo gamers. 2018 may be the best year in gaming, but I've been a part of something I think is very special. I want to welcome everyone to the first episode of Breakfast with Boom, and my goodness, choice was at the forefront of gaming, and today I have put together a very esteemed panel. But before we break down all of the highlights of gaming in 2018, I have to introduce my panel. First up, he's known on the interwebs as someone who sends out his assassins of the Sesh Empire to eliminate the toxic trolls that are a stain on humanity because he doesn't get his hands dirty. A gamer who brings the spice to the RDX podcast and proud supporter of the Xbox Game Pass movement, making his triumphant return to Breakfast with Boom. So Shady, welcome, dude.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Boom. I can't say enough about that intro, man. I have been known to load up a couple soldiers' backs with a fresh battery pack, if you will. I'm glad to be here, man. I've been looking forward to the show all week. I love doing one of your last shows of the year. Back again to do one of the first. Awesome. Let's get her done.
Yeah, that's true, and it's probably my most successful show. I have nearly 2,000 views on Christmas with Boom, and it was one of probably the funnest ones I did, to be honest, because I was able to give so much back to the community, and that's what I strive for with this channel. But next up, the founder of the incredible Full Throttle Media, Forza Racing Professional, one of the best writers in the gaming so-called journalist business, one who I'm proud to say is a person on the Crossfire podcast and a very good friend of mine, Alan Walsh. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you, Boom, for that incredible introduction. You always kill it when you introduce people. I absolutely do a spectacular job every time. So I'm honored to be on the show again. My first podcast of 2019, and what a great way to start off the new year. I've kind of had a few weeks, disconnected almost from everything, but it's good to be back. It's good to talk games again. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's also for me it's very honorable to have you on the show because I do read your work. I think your work really is second to none, Alan. I'm not saying that because you're on the show. I do really think that you bring the journalism back to journalism, if you will, because when you read your stuff, it's very honest, and it's very well thought out. And I'm sorry to say, the word journalism in 2018 really got tarnished. So it's really great to see someone of your stature who kind of, rose from the ashes of, a situation that you were involved in to create Full Throttle Media and it to be a success for you, because that in itself is amazing. But the fact that you carry the professionalism part of being a journalist through your work, I think is really second to none.
Oh, thank you. Honestly, it genuinely means a lot. And on New Year's Eve, actually, I put out a few tweets, kind of recapping the year and thanking people for their support because, when we launched the site, obviously I had some expectations,
right?
But I didn't put them super high. Like, I tried to keep them realistic, and I was genuinely surprised and blown away by how well people responded to the site. Tomorrow, by the way, is our first year anniversary. Tomorrow is 1 year since we launched the site, so it's exciting. It is. It really is.
Well, you know what? Let's continue. Listen, again, your success is going to continue to grow, and I'm happy to be a part of it, and I'm happy that you're a part of today's show. But I have to talk about the next guest. Next up, he's known as the Internet Good Guy. His Twitter name is the Indie Gamer, but when I think of him, I think of Indiana Jones because he's the hidden gem of this community. My very good friend, the Indie Gamer. Welcome, my friend.
Hey Boom, how you doing? It's great to be back again with such great company. The best chat around, as we all know. This is an awesome chat, great community. Thank you so much for having me on again. Absolutely love this show and the perfect way to get back into the year. Had a bit of a rest over the Christmas sort of period, so good to get back into it now and just ready to fire up for the rest of this awesome year that I'm sure it's going to be.
Oh, it's gonna be something else, that's for sure. And last and in no way least, Sea of Thieves pirate legend, survivor of the sinking ship known as Florida, seeker of the perfect calzone, and founder of the very excellent Four Guys with Quarters, my Italian paisan Clowns, who is running a little late because he had to be a gentleman and help his wife with a flat tire. So we'll welcome him when he gets here. But you know what? Let's start off the episode strong. And we're going to talk about Sony. Now, if 2018 is going to be remembered for anything, it's going to be remembered that Sony's first party games were outstanding. Though many gamers will say that exclusives don't matter anymore, I'm here to tell you that is false. Sony's runaway success was a clear indication that power, but more importantly, exclusives hold the console in the light where it should be. And they did that with 3 gigantic first-party helpings. Here, we talk about it. Sony's big 3 for 2018 were released in static fashion. God of War was released on April 20th, 2018, and by all rights, should be my game of the year like I called in 2017. The game was phenomenal from start to finish. What they did with Kratos was literally second to none. I mean, they reinvented the wheel, something that is very, very hard to do. Then we saw Detroit Become Human, released on May 25th. And here's the thing. I hear some people in the community say, oh, it's a movie, it's not really a game. But let me just tell you this. It tells such a gripping, emotional roller coaster story that I think it's as good as any book ever written. You get to see the perspective of 3 different androids, and there's an undertone of race that's really represented in a way that I don't think it's ever been done before. Because, you know, when you talk about race, you think skin color. But in this particular game, it was the fact that they were not human. And like I said, I highly recommend anyone who has a PlayStation 4 to please play this game. It was fantastic from start to finish. And of course, finally, the megastar of Sony exclusives for the 2018 was, of course, Spider-Man by Insomniac Games. And that was released on September 7th. And listen, what could you say about the game? Listen, it was what I wanted in a Spider-Man game. It took everything that I loved about the Arkham series from Rocksteady, and they just made you feel so incredibly fast and powerful. When you were playing as Spider-Man. And listen, the graphics, man. All I did was take pictures. I felt like a tourist, and I live in New York, by the way. It was just amazing. Shady, I want to go to you first on this. Listen, exclusives, I think, there's been talk about exclusives not mattering as much as they did back in the days. But when you look at the success that Sony had in 2018 with console sales, I mean, for God's sakes, they're closing in on 100 million consoles sold. And I'm not saying that these 3 games did that. I'm saying that what they did in 2018, because of games like God of War and Detroit Become Human and Spider-Man, is why they're in this position. Am I wrong for thinking that?
The exclusive narrative, I find, is an interesting one, and I believe it only really comes out and applies, in all honesty, to Nintendo. It works really well with what Nintendo is doing, and the community responds as the hardcores like to say they respond on Xbox, or especially on Sony, where as much as the sales are huge, like you said, they're kicking 100 million store down. These games are selling 8, 9, 10 million. That's 1 in 9. While impressive on a number to, like, compared to other games, if exclusives, in my opinion, were the reason that consoles were truly being sold, and that was the reason alone, which of course it isn't, but if that was the main, I think these games would be selling like 20, 30, 40 on the PlayStation. I agree. I agree. Similar to Switch, like everyone on the Switch has Zelda. Everyone. Yeah, that's almost 100%. When it first came out, there was actually more copies of Zelda sold
than consoles.
Than Switches. Yeah, yes. People were grabbing the game because it was available just in case. So when they got their hands on a Switch, they was already ready to go. Like, we just don't see that, I think, on the PlayStation or the Xbox ever, as much as these games sell a lot. But there's no denying that when the game is good, especially being exclusive, let's get this right out there, doesn't instantly make a game amazing. or compelling
I agree.
or
I
none of
agree.
those things. All it does is mean that you need to have a certain platform to play it on. That's it. I'm of the opinion that compared to multi-platform games, exclusives are arguably anti-consumer. You can't play them on the console or device that you want if it's not on it. So that's not as the same as like Assassin's Creed comes out and you can play it on any of the major platforms. It's more pro-consumer compared to exclusives. I'm not a big fan of the practice. It doesn't work in movies. We would have an outrage.
Yeah,
I
I agree.
I like to use the example, like, what if Sony Pictures, everything that they made only played on a Sony Blu-ray player? No one would stand for that. It just sounds preposterous to say it.
Yeah.
So why is it allowed in the video game world? It's happened since the 80s with Nintendo. I think we should move past that. All of these games would do better if they weren't exclusive. But now that's out of the way. God of War, I put in about 12 to 14 hours and I ripped apart what I did. I didn't make it too far, though. I really did like it. But I also have to be honest and say I have a heavy bias towards Sony. I'm not a fan of the controller. I don't like the way it feels in my hands.
I agree.
Up until very recently, it was actually Horizon Zero Dawn that did it for me. I always felt that Sony exclusive games, I use the word loose. They felt loose in compared to what I would say is the tight feeling that I found with like Gears of War or a Halo. Something about the Sony games just felt a little loose to me, but I could never deny they were gorgeous. They're way more emotional, I find. They're going for more of the human emotion in a lot of their games.
Yeah.
And they nail it. They deliver on that aspect. And God of War was fantastic from what I played. I'm going to go back and play that. I at first, when it won Game of the Year, I can't deny or be upset. I'm even embarrassed. I was upset. I thought that Red Dead should have won it, in my opinion. Still to this day, I think it should have. But God of War was easily a contender and worthy, to be honest. Spider-Man, I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet or given myself the chance to play it yet. But that's another title I'd love to really get into. And same with Detroit. I just went through a late shift, actually, through the Game Pass.
Fantastic game, dude.
And you know, like you just said, game, right? And the only game part about it is the fact that you push left or right and hit the A button quick. It is the epitome of a controllable movie because it's a filmed full motion video movie that you get to pick the outcomes of. But it was. I loved it. It was fun because I was actually in control of it. It is gamey. I couldn't put the controller down and have the same result. But to say that it's on the same level as some of these other games, no. But there is certainly room for them in the industry. And Detroit, I think, is a Telltale game done right. And from everything I've heard, I need to play this thing, man. I'm a sci-fi guy. I'm a sci-fi guy, and I think they're going to tug on some emotional strings. And I'm looking forward to picking it up, quote unquote, from the bargain bin. But yeah, undeniably, Sony brought the fire last year, and the community reacted. They bought a lot of games. They bought a lot of systems. That being said, Xbox also sold a lot of games and sold a lot of systems.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
But we're on PlayStation right now, so they had a killer year. Let's hope they keep it up. They seem to have, when they said they're going to duck low, I don't think any of us were really predicting how low they were saying. Like, they've backed out of every show over the last year, E3 included this year. But no one is doubting that they're going to come out and unveil something, and it's going to be awesome. So I'm excited to see what they got cooking.
Yeah, we're gonna be coming around to that towards the end of this particular topic. But Alan, you know, all three of these games sold, you know, extremely well for you know, the Sony brand, but you know, it was the Spider-Man and the 199 PS4 Slim that really made big bucks for Sony. Now obviously we're at the point of in the generation where they're actually making money on the consoles. You know, we all know that traditionally that's not where you make your money. You make your money in software. And the sales for PS4 broke records all year long. But, you know, Alan, in your opinion, as someone who I consider an actual real journalist who takes a look at this from a different set of eyes than just a gamer like me, Shady, Clowns, or the indie gamer, because, you know, you have Full Throttle Media. What were your takes on the how incredibly important these three particular titles were for the Sony brand in 2018?
Yeah, I think Sony really relied on their exclusives for the past year. That was like really clear to be seen. And I think, you know, especially towards the end of the PS3's life cycle, you actually saw a similar kind of thing as well. They really rely on those story-driven, narrative-focused single-player games. And that's what they had a lot of in 2018. Microsoft's approach, as we know, is quite different to exclusives. They focus a lot more on shared games, online games, racing, and so forth. And I think what Sony does is they do those games that, they try to almost tug at your heartstrings, or they try to maybe bring back, I don't know how you put it, like maybe like childhood memories or something, like with Spider-Man and stuff like that. It's they do have a good approach, and it works really, really well for them. And I think they needed it, especially after losing the Power Crown at the end of 2017. They needed to give people a reason to buy a PS4 Pro, because those games are the best looking games on that system. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
So yeah, I think the approach worked well for them. The $199 Spider-Man PS4 is genius. I wish Microsoft had something similar with Horizon 4. Do you get a really cheap Xbox One S with Horizon 4? If they could have, it may sound ridiculous, but if they could have gone in with that at $149, that could have done amazingly well.
Yeah,
it really could have done them a lot of favors. But yeah, that $199 bundle was genius, and it was going to sell really well. And when you think about the system having other exclusives like God of War, and you hear the talk about them getting early access to Black Ops 4 and Red Dead 2 content, it does incentivize people to go the PS4 way.
Of course, absolutely.
Especially when you see Sony's marketing promoting that games, they still promote in their commercials that games run best and play in 4K on their console.
Yeah. I mean,
they still do.
Yeah, it's with Sony, sometimes it could be a little smoke and mirrors. But, before we move on, I just need to just do two things. First of all, I have to welcome Clowns. First of all, thanks for coming, dude. I know you're on mute because probably the dog is barking. Oh, okay. Well, listen, welcome to the show, dude. I did a nice opening for you, so on the back end, listen to it because you'll get a good laugh out of it. But Happy New Year. Thanks for coming out here. And real quick, I just have to say, Jesse Darby, dude, this guy is amazing. He's a big supporter of the show. He dropped a $10 super chat in there. I want to say thank you. Every dollar counts. It really does. Help the channel grow. And he says, hi, Boom. And of course, Michael Johnson, who I consider like a superhero of the community. He supports everyone. He drops $2. And he says, Boom, the king of flattery. I appreciate that, dude. Yeah, listen, you know what? I do these shows for the community, but when I have my guests on, I want to put them in the best light. Technically, yes, it's my show, but my show wouldn't be a show if I didn't have the community and I didn't have guests like the amazing panel I have today coming out and giving 2 hours of their very precious time to do the show. So obviously my job as a host is to, push them in the light and me take a seat back, because again, the foundation of this channel was built on the backs of this community, and they're always going to come first in my eyes. But you know what? I want to continue with this topic. Indy, let me break this down. Sony's marketing machine, which is what Alan was just referring to, was running on all 4 cylinders, or 8 cylinders if you have a big Dodge Charger. PS advertising was basically everywhere. I mean, basketball games, movie theaters, bus stops, malls, TV was where Sony really took it to the house, pun intended. And when it came to Red Dead Redemption 2 and Call of Duty Black Ops 4 in particular, many casuals thought that those games were exclusive on the PlayStation 4, which is, it's shocking to, and again, this is not an insult to the casuals, but we know everything that goes on in gaming because that's our bag, right? That's what we do. The casual market, the way Sony markets, man. I mean, listen, I tip their hat. I tip my hat to them because they are the masters of marketing, especially in this particular generation. But Indy, my question to you is, for Sony as a brand who literally, on the mistakes of Microsoft, jumped out of the gate and have not let off the gas, how important was marketing to the Sony PlayStation 4 in 2018?
I would say it's very important. To be honest with you, they've got their approach. I think they really stick to what they know. In comparison to Microsoft, Microsoft are changing things up. They're innovating. Sony are much. The way I see it, they're much more. They've got what they know works, and they keep churning that out. Not to detriment, but like they do some great games. I think marketing definitely was a massive deal. So Microsoft have not done enough of that, in my opinion.
Right.
And Sony have definitely pushed the boundaries of what's okay to do, in my opinion, with some of their marketing spiel. I think they've been a bit sneaky with some of that, the 4K stuff and that.
Yes.
But you know, you got to do what you got to do, I guess. And maybe Microsoft should take a leaf out of that book and get on that more offensive approach. You know, some might think it's. I mean, Phil is quite a sort of laid back kind of guy, but underneath it, I think he's got that competitive edge though, and he just likes to come across as the laid back guy, if you know what I mean. But yeah, their exclusives are big, but like I think everyone agrees they're not everything. Exclusives aren't everything, but their ones are tried and tested. They've got that cookie cutter sort of exclusive, which they've turned out quite a few times this generation, which like everyone said, it's like that emotional connection, you know, in games, which I actually quite like a lot. That sort of thing. I don't actually have a PlayStation myself, but I do love the love when games reach out in an emotional way, definitely. But yeah, I mean, marketing definitely has made a whole heap of difference, and you know, it's taken you know, giving them that edge. I would say a lot of it, but you know, and making it so clear that the exclusives, you know, they're putting that, basically telling people what to think. You know what I mean? They're going that hard with their marketing. They're saying, you know, exclusive matter. This is it's in people's face. And I think giving people not much choice in the matter. But I think Microsoft have definitely come back strong in this generation, and they're setting themselves up extremely well for next generation now. So yeah, it's been an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about that. I mean, listen, again, you know, the marketing, you know, it's funny because when you look at generations and you know, you take a step back as a content creator, I enjoy reading about gaming. Again, I've been very, very fortunate to be involved in gaming since the joysticks had one button.
Yeah.
I've been gaming for over 40 years, so I've seen trends come and go. I've seen the technology go from sticks and dots to photorealistic stuff we're going to see in Resident Evil 2 in a couple of weeks. So, of course, I'm very privileged. But, you know, Clowns, I want to go to you. Listen, as great as 2018 was for Sony, you know, it's the last 6 months that had many people, including myself within the industry, scratching their heads. I mean, Sony seemed to be out of things to show. E3 2018 was a misstep, in my opinion. There was an extremely strange music numbers. The flute playing was a little odd. There was no seating for the guests. They stood for over 2 hours. And then while they were moving the guests to the next tent, there was that very awkward desk conversation during the breaks that really kind of dragged their conference down. You know, and when you talk about, you know, Shady mentioned it a few minutes ago. You know, they didn't attend Gamescom. They didn't attend Paris Games Week. They shocked the fan base by outright canceling PSX. And then weeks later, they announced that they were pulling out of E3 2019 altogether. Now, this is the first time this has happened in the company's history, skipping E3. Now, I understand. I'm not going to sit here for a second and assume that you know, we're not going to get anything Sony in 2019, because that would be foolish. But at the same time, man, I kind of wonder if this is, you know, they kind of really fumbled the ball on the goal line, and it's a touchback. I mean, what are your takes on everything we just talked about, Clowns?
You know, to be honest with you, I'm very confused with Sony's message right now. I don't know why they pulled back from everything. I don't know why they've done strange things like that, especially the stand-in for 2 hours. I mean, that's not how to treat your guests, to be honest with you. You know, on top of all that, though, with that to be said, I think Sony's in an egotistical moment where they're too confident with themselves. And I think they think that they're the greatest console out there and they're selling the most consoles. Well, I mean, Switch is beating them now, right? If I'm wrong. But for a long time, their ego was big. And they just felt like they could do no wrong no matter what they did. Anything they said, everybody treated it like gold. Like, oh my God, it's coming from Sony. Hail the gods. You know, and I think that's just the ego Sony has.
Yeah, you know what? Again, trends, right? Trends seem to wreak their ugly head each and every generation. You know, we saw Sony in the PS3 era do things that kind of shock the world, right? Like, hey, listen, if you want this console, get a second job, right? Or the real life crab battles, things silly things like that. They marketed it all wrong, and they launched the console $600, and it just was a struggle for them that entire generation. And then, of course, you look at what you look back to 2013 with Microsoft, and they had people in charge that, probably shouldn't have been. And some things were said about, hey, listen, if you don't want online all the time, buy a 360. It's just, you can't talk to your fan base like that, or customers more specifically. But you know what? So Shady, I have to come back to you on this. In my opinion, another extremely unexpected epic fail for Sony was the PS1 Mini, which they thought was going to be they were going to cash in on nostalgia. And man, they missed the mark on this. Besides being very cheap in design, the 20 games chosen were absolutely terrible. And the fact they were the PAL versions instead of the US versions to save money on the translations for each region, which again, a cheap, real shitty way to do business. As of this show, the console, if you want to call it that, has dropped down to below half price. In your opinion, as someone who's on several podcasts and guests on the usual basis, do you think that this was a black eye, that it's going to take a little time for Sony to get out from under?
No, to be honest, I think they're going to get under it really, really quick.
Okay.
But at the same time, I think it's a little bit of a shocker to Sony and to a lot of people. Everyone expected this thing to, why not outperform the Nintendo Minis? Because PlayStation is just so damn hot right now, perception-wise, that how could this not? And it is loaded with, exclusive PlayStation games back in the day. So here's what it tells me, and I kind of like what the message is if people are willing to pick it up, is that one of the most important things when it comes to these quote-unquote consoles, even the real consoles, especially, let's say, the real consoles, is perception. Yes. It's not necessarily the price. It's not the exclusive games on offer. Let's be real. The vast majority of gamers buying consoles are casuals, and they're buying it for whatever game they are into. If that's exclusive, so be it. It may not be. The statistics say it really often isn't. It's Call of Duty or Madden or FIFA as a couple examples there. And it's also the system that their friends own. But big time is perception. It was out there early that this thing was not delivering at all, that it was cheap and the games didn't work well, that they were ripoffs of the original ROMs. And the people hear it. As much as we love to say, oh, they're casual. Hey, they have the internet. The internet is as prevalent as, water today. Everyone has it. We're all on it all the time. We're all hearing this stuff. And word on the street, on the casual street, was it just wasn't worth picking up. And it was reflected in the sales as opposed to Nintendo's, which the word on the street, your grandma knew that that was out and that it was good quality. She knew. You didn't have to tell her, and she bought it for you. That's why it sold so well. Whereas this, no. And I think it's all perception. And I really do think that is why PlayStation ran away with this generation, is they have had constantly good perception with the media. Everywhere you go, is PlayStation great and Xbox not. Every single game review for a very long time always brought up the disparity between the resolution differences and why would you pay for a less resolution game with the same content, pay the same money. Like it was in every article, every single one, every review. Yep. And then the X came out and it killed it. And that's a good thing. But at the same time, I know a lot of us diehard Xbox guys were hoping that it was going to kill the Sony part of it, and instead was going to swing to every review mentioned how much the X was better and 3 million more pixels and loads 45 seconds faster. And we wanted to see that because we heard about it the other way around for years.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. Instead, it just killed it dead. And let's be honest, fanboy shit aside, I'd rather it was just dead. I don't need to be hearing that kind of stuff. That's not why I got into gaming. I use my human eyes when I game, not a microscope, so I don't do the digital boundary thing, right? So I'm here for the fun. I was just playing a game again in Game Pass. We are running around as a bunch of squares and cubes. Like there's no to say it even has graphics almost. It's ludicrous.
Are you talking about Fall Flat?
No, it's not. It's like you're literally No, it's not that squared. You are a little square and a rectangle and a flat rectangle, and you move your shapes around. And each of them is a character that's named, and they have a story that's playing out. It's actually like a really critically renowned indie game from the past. I forgot what it was called. But like, I don't care at the end of the day about what the graphics are. Tetris is one of my favorite games of all time. That's a couple of blocks that just drop down the screen, but the gameplay is killer. So I'm not surprised that the thing kind of flopped because the perception was brutal, absolutely brutal. And there you go.
Yeah. Well, listen, real quick before I get to Alan, I have to say, Robert Griffin, thank you so much for the $7 super chat. He says, needed headset help, Astro A20 or 50 or Stealth 700. I have personally the Astro A50s, and they are absolutely fantastic. That would be my pick. But I don't know if anyone else in the chats wanted to give him a hand. And also, Drum Solo, please, with the amazing $5 super chat. I want to say thank you for that. And he says, Coca-Cola still spends tons of money on ads, even though it's all over the world. Xbox needs to step up their ad game and be aggressive. Great show, Boom. Yes, I could not have agreed any more or said it any better. Drum Solo, I've been banging this drum, no pun intended there, on how disappointed I have been with the marketing this generation. But Alan, you know what? I want to go to you next on this. You know, everyone on this panel, I'm sure, believes that Sony is going to have their own PS5 event. And most of the community are wondering if these unorthodox moves will cost Sony in the next generation. Because, you know, skipping E3, being that you've been to E3, you know how big it is. Regardless of what, you know, some sites will tell you that it's on the decline, it's getting bigger each and every year. And for Sony to take a step back at such a big show where they're going to show off their third-party marketing deals, it kind of makes me scratch my head on what they're actually doing. What are your takes on that?
I think for them, I've said this before, I think for them not being at E3 is a big deal. And a lot of people were kind of like, oh, it's because they're going to have their own event. They're going to show a bunch of games at it and all of this. I think 2019 for them in terms of exclusives is going to be a really sparse year.
Me too. Yeah.
They got a lot of heavy hitters out in 2018. I think this year is going to be quiet. And like, there's nothing wrong with having a quiet year. It's not like Microsoft has them too. It's not the end of the world. I think though, it's going to be a quiet year for them. I think they're really focused on 2020, but I think Microsoft's going to actually have a lot to show this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have a lot of games. They have quite a lot of exclusives coming out this year, announced and unannounced, and they're going to have a really killer E3.
Yeah.
And I think Sony, they have to communicate with their fans. They have to do some kind of an event. If they do an event this year, I'm not going to be the one who's going to be saying, oh, this is PS5 reveal, this is PS5 reveal. It may literally be a smaller event where they show off some stuff, give some updates on their titles that are coming, and that may be it. I don't know if we're going to be seeing the consoles announced this year. Maybe.
Right. Maybe. It's possible, but it's still... You know what, dude? I listen. I mean, again, you're a paraprofessional, and you know, your opinion it matters to me, and I think what you're saying is absolutely spot on. I mean, I don't know what they're doing, and as a fan, because I'm a fan, you know, I have 200 PS4 games. I have the God of War Special Edition console. I have the PSVR with 40 games. I mean, I'm a fan. So as a fan of their, because I don't buy anything on third party for Sony. I'm sorry, I just don't. Xbox is where I lay my head at the end of the day.
Yeah, because that's where they play the best.
Right. Yes. And good.
For me recently, actually, I was kind of like evaluating costs and thinking about, you know, the amount of money I'm spending on games and stuff. And this week, I made the decision to cancel my PlayStation Plus.
I did too.
Because of how little I've used the console over the last 12 months.
Yeah. Well,
the service doesn't really give me any benefits. When I do use the console, I don't play anything online on it. Because I don't really have any friends on PSN. And like, I don't subscribe to Nintendo's service either. There's two platforms that I've been playing on a lot recently. Xbox One and PC.
Right.
Those are my two platforms. And they tie into Xbox Live, they tie into Game Pass, they tie into the one service. So those are the subscriptions I'm going to stick with. I think when it comes to PS4, I'll obviously keep my console. I'm not going to sell it or anything, but it's just for me. I get that people love their exclusives, but they're not the kind of games I play.
Okay, that makes
You know?
sense. Yeah. Well, listen, listen, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and everyone has their likes and dislikes. And I say this all the time, not sound like a broken record, but not every game is for every gamer. But,
Absolutely.
Indy, I want to go to you. Listen, everyone on the panel, including a lot of people in the chat, which is completely on fire, by the way, mentioned the word perception. And obviously, perception in 2018 was king and key for the PlayStation brand. But I got to be honest with you. The year closed out on a very sour note for a couple of reasons for Sony, and it turns out that we're hearing that we're only 4 days into 2019, and already we're hearing that Death Stranding may be episodic, which is a little strange. We're hearing that we already know that they're not going to be attending E3 2019, and we're now hearing that Days Gone, one of my most anticipated games of this year, may be delayed into the end of the year, possibly pushed into 2020. And all we have on the docket, as we know right now, is Dreams, which is going to be a flop. Because I could tell you this, and I want to go back to something that Shady said. If 9% or 10% of the populace are only buying a game like God of War, you can imagine that it's probably going to be 1% of the populace buying Dreams. So that's not good for Sony fans, especially coming off a strong 2018. What are your takes on this very early perception in 2019? Do you think it's going to hurt the brand for this year?
It certainly could. I mean, they've definitely come across as quite arrogant recently.
Yes.
A lot of people were saying that, and it's it's definitely not a good look. But yeah, no, it's like they need to sort of consider the fact that not to just drop the ball now, because if it's not just like, all right, stop now, we've won, we'll look onto the next generation now, and then we'll go from there. This part of the generation is just as important, really, because they could be losing out on people now, and then those people will be going through sort of adopting maybe the Xbox. They might say, well, hang on a minute, no E3, what's going on, all these other things that are happening. They might just sort of say, well, maybe I will try that $199 Xbox and see what it's like. And then you got the people migrate across, and then they sort of set up for the next generation. When they see all that Xbox are doing at the moment, they could easily lose out on fans just by a bit of arrogance. Is never attractive in any situation. I don't think it's one of my worst traits. Arrogance is not a good look. So I think they have to be a bit careful, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm right there with you. I think that they're walking on thin ice, to be honest. I don't think that, the near 100 million consoles that have been sold, everyone's just going to start, trading in PS4s. But at the same time, you keep your foot on the gas for so long, and then you kind of let up at the last minute. Clowns, I kind of want to get your final opinion on this regarding Sony 2019. They're off to a very slow start, almost with snail speed start. A lot of negativity coming out of going out of 2018, coming into 2019. In your opinion, for someone who is a showrunner himself and is constantly trolling the news to find out stuff to talk about on your show, do you think that it is possible, with what Microsoft is doing publicly now, with the Game Pass and then the xCloud and the different SKUs, do you think that Sony's, let up off the gas and old-fashioned ideology is going to hurt them in this generation and kind of maybe stagnate them going into 2020?
That's a tough question, because Sony's fans are really loyal. Like they have their hardcore base that sees no wrong. And a lot of those people are in the press too, unfortunately. So I think from a media perspective, I think the press is going to keep defending Sony, keep loving Sony. I mean, they could come out with a poop simulator and the press will eat it up and say, oh man, it's the greatest thing. It's fake 4K graphics. Watch this poop plop. Unfortunately, that's how I feel. And
2
as
media
far as
outlets, 1 cup. Sorry, go.
yeah, and
That's great. That's
as
great.
as far as games go, Boom, like it's the same games over and over that they show us every year. It's like the same games. Oh, wait for this game. Wait for this game. Oh, next year we're going to show you another preview of the same game we've been working on the last 10 years. So I don't really know what they got cooking up besides PS5. And I think that's going to be their big thing to hold on to, like the mass crowd. Be like, oh, look at the PS5. I think that's their big thing, their secret egg. But other than that, I don't see much coming out of them.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp as you. I don't know what to expect from Sony in 2019. I am, still playing Spider-Man. I didn't play the DLC over the holiday because I was playing some other things. I kind of want to go through Detroit Become Human, a second time because it just was. My God, it was such a masterpiece. And like Shady, like I said, I know that you're an Xbox dude at heart, but if you like story, I think Detroit Become Human, it just tells it's just such a powerful story. I was very happy with Sony in 2018. I know a lot of people were. I was very disappointed with them pulling out of all these shows, especially E3, simply because, when you think of E3, the gaming media, basically the eyes of the world are on this particular show. I think it's going to be disappointing, but at the same time, it's going someone is going to take advantage. But real quick, before we get on to the next topic, I have to say once again, Michael Johnson with the $5 super chat. He says, IMO, I'm a humbled Sony is basically he says, okay, a humbled Sony is a better Sony. I'm hoping the next generation knocks Sony back to being humbled because they are becoming the 2006 cocky Sony. I agree with you, of course. And then out of nowhere, my awesome and incredible wife, Josette Rivera, with the $20 super chat, who supports the show, says, Happy New Year to everyone, especially my dear Mr. Boomstick. Thank you so much. Hope it's a great year for everyone. Thank you so much, honey. Your support has been unbelievable. But you know what? Let's talk Nintendo for a second. 2018 has been a pretty good year for the company. The Switch has become the phenomenon Nintendo was hoping it would be. And it's very rare for a company to catch lightning in a bottle twice. And they did just that. They hit a nerve with the everybody initiative with the Wii, and the Wii U, obviously we know it did not sell well and it fell flat. And then the Switch comes out and everyone was like, yeah, power matters. Power's this, it sucks. And it turns out that power actually doesn't matter as much as you think, because portability seems to be the key. Getting games on the console, even though they're older, okay, I get it. Doom, Castle Wolfenstein, Dead Cells, Skyrim, Rocket League, Diablo 3, NBA 2K18, Dark Souls Remastered. I mean, that's just to name a few. Were a big deal for the Switch community, and it proves that third-party devs really want in on the Switch. Shady, I want to go to you first on this. When you talk about the Nintendo Switch, you're in a household where you have roommates, and I know I heard you talking many times on many shows about the how much fun and hashtag fun that you guys were having with Smash Brothers. Let's just say that just came out. What are your takeaways on what Nintendo did in 2018 to make the the Switch the second console that every PlayStation 4 or Xbox owner has?
I think it almost launched at that, and that's one of the reasons why it's as successful as it is. And this is again, I mentioned earlier, it's the only time where I think the exclusive narrative can really come out swinging. Zelda is insane. Mario is insane. Mario Kart is insane. I never played Splatoon, but the people that are into it really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Same with ARMS. My friends in the house, they have Smash and frequently have up to 6 to 8 people over, and
so
they're
fun,
going
dude.
ballistic with that game. They love it. I really love Mario Tennis. I love that game. I'm not going to pretend that I play the Switch all the time. It doesn't get played by me all the time at all, but it is a great secondary console. I grew up diehard Nintendo way back when I was a little man, and we'd be taking these console wars out to the bike racks. You know what I'm saying? With the Sega Punks. That type of deal.
I love it.
But the Switch is very successful. It is selling a lot of consoles, and I think it's because, like you said, it is a lot of people's side console, and the Nintendo diehard are extremely loyal. I have been to many midnight launch for Nintendo products over the years here, and I can't help but notice that, it's all guys my age that are there.
Yes.
Men my
Men.
age that are there that obviously grew up with the NES and Super Nintendo as well. Not there's anything wrong with that, but that I think is a big, big, big reason that Nintendo is successful today. I'm not sure how well Mario honestly resonates with the honest to God today's youth. I don't know if they're into a little fat plumber that runs around and jumps on mushrooms. Maybe they are, but it's hard to tell. Who's buying the games? I really don't know. I do know, when judging by the lineups, it's a lot of men in their 30s. But I think bringing the third-party games over to the Switch all of a sudden here is a great move. The portability factor is good for a lot of people. The Switch in my house never, ever leaves the dock unless we're
Yes,
swapping
mine either.
TVs that
Yeah.
it's on. That's the only
Mhm.
time. So it's not a portable system to me. It may be one for other people. But I think with moving forward, things like xCloud and PlayStation Plus doing something similar, we're hearing Google Stream. I think its portability factor, the allure of it, is really going to take a shot with that, because what's more portable than a Switch? Your phone, the tablet you already have and use, those things that you
Yes.
already carry around with you already and use for everything else. When you can play, all your big games on that, I think the portability of the Switch and its ports is really going to suddenly disappear and not matter anymore. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of sales it continues to do there. It'll still continue to do well because of the exclusives, but I feel as well that that market has almost been saturated of the people that are just, they buy it because it's Nintendo, they love Mario, they love
Yep.
Zelda. I think all those fans have it already. So moving forward, it's going to be really interesting with the Switch, because I really think there's going to be a lot of options that offer similar stuff to it. But man, you can't deny that they killed it since launch, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Real quick, I have to say once again, thank you to Jesse Darby with the additional $5 super chat. Dude, thank you so much. I am very humbled that so many people donate to the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Alan, I want to go to you. Listen, first party exclusives and console exclusives, more specifically, is where the Switch seems to shine. The magic of Nintendo's IP, in my opinion, is comparable to Walt Disney and their roster of beloved characters. 2018 saw the release of Octopath Traveler, which is phenomenal if you like JRPGs. Super Mario Party, which is fantastic. I play with my nephew. Mario Tennis, which is Mario Tennis Aces. You saw the re-release of Bayonetta 1 and 2, because we know that Bayonetta 3 is coming as an exclusive to that platform. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, I was playing last night on the couch while watching a movie with my wife. I think that's just a fantastic game. And of course, the behemoth of all behemoths, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And I have to say this out loud. It surpassed 10 million copies in under 25 days. That's insane. As a matter of fact, we talked about it on the show I have with Salty on Wednesdays, Gaming News at Noon with Salty and Boom, shameless plug, that it was Amazon's #1 selling game for 2018. Now think about that for a second. Out of the entire 12 months that for the year, this game comes out and under 25 days sells the most. Alan, how important are these exclusives for the Switch?
Well, I'll kind of put it to you this way. Those of us who bought a Switch at launch, which I did, what game did we buy it with? We all bought it with Zelda.
Yes, sir.
I don't think there's a single person out there who did not buy Zelda with their Switch if they got it at launch.
Right.
It was the must-have game. It was one of the biggest games of that year. And that's the thing with a Nintendo system. They have a first-party lineup that's almost unmatched in a way. Like, no one can really do their own Smash game. No one can. Zelda's so unique. Mario's so unique. It's such a unique lineup in that it can't be replicated. It just can't. And I think that's why Nintendo's strategy this generation has been really smart, because whilst they don't have the Power Crown, they do have the portability of that system with a great lineup of games. And there's a lot of people who play it docked, but there's a lot of people who only use that system in its handheld mode because they want to play games whilst traveling.
Yes.
And that's really, really, really important. And it's such a small system, and it's great to pack in and everything. And sure, there's a lot of talk about cloud streaming being the future, and I think that's great and all. But I think there's one big issue with it, and it's the fact that you're not going to be able to use that when you're on a plane.
Yes.
And that to me is a big problem. You can use your Switch on a plane, and you get access to all those Nintendo exclusives.
Yes.
That to me is so crucial, and that's why their strategy this generation has been so smart. It didn't work for Wii U. It just didn't.
Yeah.
But with Switch, they've executed it so well, and they have a better lineup of exclusives for this console as well. Like, they really thought out the Switch so well, and its release schedule, and its exclusives. They're so important to this system. Like, Switch has been doing so well, and we always talk about Microsoft versus Sony, and because that is what the heated battle is.
Right.
But Nintendo are also out there doing.
They're in the shadows. They're the ninja of this.
They're doing incredibly well. They are. And even their online service, this is their first time doing that paid subscription model. They went in with a much cheaper service. They went in with a service that, like, where they can repurpose their retro titles.
Yep.
It's so smart, and it's actually really good fan service as well. And like, they're smart too, and they also did that test thing of wasn't it the cloud streaming of Resident Evil 7 in Japan, I believe?
Yes, absolutely.
Things like that, I think you're going to see them do more of, because they have that portability and all that. I think cloud streaming is something they're going to look into. But even when you just forget about cloud streaming, just the ability to play all those Nintendo exclusives on the go, either with the cartridge or downloaded, I think it's really smart for them. Like, that's why the Switch has been by far their best system, because it's traditional, but it's not traditional.
Yeah, it's the best of both worlds. That's a great point. Really,
yeah, exactly.
Really good point. I have to shout out real quick, Curtis K in the chat. He comes up with two really good points. When talking about the Switch games, he says that they're very bug free, and that's the truth, and they're quality. And I think that those go hand in hand. Now, Indy, if you're in the camp that complains that most of the titles are HD remasters. I mean, personally, this is just speaking for me. I can't get enough of them. And it's because Nintendo's first-party games are so damn good. I have zero problems rebuying them. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a prime example of the undying love that they put into these games. Every character from every game is represented here. And they even have a DLC plan where you're going to get 6 new characters, one of which is a free one, which is the Piranha Plant. We know that Joker from Persona 5 shocked us at the Game Awards. That's a big deal because he's a very popular character. And, what could you say? Persona is not my type of game, but it is a lot of people's game. And to have the main character in Smash is amazing. But when you talk about Smash, it's a masterpiece, and it's worthy of your time. It's definitely a love letter to older gamers like myself and a few people on this panel. But Indy, what are your takeaways with Nintendo being like the company that gets the pass by releasing all of these older games? Like, for instance, the Wii U sold terribly. So there are a lot of games, a lot of quality games like Toad, like Smash, like Mario Kart 8 that are getting new lives on the Switch. But you know what? No one really says anything about it. You don't really hear a lot of the boo birds come out, and people like myself will just continue to rebuy these games. What are your takeaways with the magic that Nintendo seems to have when it comes to bringing older titles to their newer consoles?
I mean, Nintendo and the Switch they're just playing a completely different game to everyone else in the industry. It seems like they've got their own way. They play by their own rules. I mean, if there's demand for those HD remasters, I say, why not? I mean, if people want to snap them up, I think, there's no reason to do them really. I mean, people are I'm going to say it. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug, and there's a lot of nostalgia in the Nintendo market. So, I don't see a massive problem with that. I mean, they have dropped off a little with their exclusives that they had so strong at the start, but maybe that's why they're bringing in a bit of that sort of action. But in general, though, like Nintendo and the Switch, they've got a massive unique selling point in the fact that it's dockable, and then you can take it out and you play it anywhere you want. Really, it's just completely different to any other console. I think that's really important and defining factor of the console doing so well. And also then you've got the other massive strong point of all of their exclusives, which is just overwhelming amount of great titles which you're not going to see anywhere else. So I think that is why they have done so well, and they've, like Alan said, they have been actually quite clever about things. They're not, they're not just knocking it out. I think they are being quite tactical about everything, and I think that they've done extremely well with this generation. The only thing about if they were going to move in, the only thing that might come in their way is possibly Xbox with their streaming setup that they're getting into. And the fact that that when they did the Resident Evil 7 stream
in
Japan, that was pretty bad, if I remember rightly. Was that right? I heard someone say it was awfully laggy, so I might be wrong on that, but that was just passed down the grapevine. But yeah, so like if they're going to do that, I think they need to make sure they've got that down before they put out another showing of streaming. But I'm not 100% sure if that was correct, but I just heard that from somebody else. So yeah, but otherwise, they have done remarkably well, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here, though, because I'd say with moving to next generation, it's going to change things up quite a bit. But yeah, that's my take on that.
Hey, real quick while we're on the topic of Nintendo, if I may.
Sure, absolutely.
There's something that I would love to see. There's a couple things I'd love to see at a Nintendo, and I want to see if you guys think the same. The main one is, what do you think the industry numbers would shift to, if anything different, if Nintendo were to release the traditional banging technological console? Like, it had all the multiplats running at, let's say, even their best performance. If that was on a Nintendo platform and they had their exclusive catalog as well, do you think Nintendo would do much better even than they are right now? Whereas they treat third party almost like a second thought. Even what they have today, it's nothing compared to what PlayStation and Xbox are getting third party wise. Not even close. Even close. So I think if they were to deliver a console that is just on the same technical level as the competition, so the third party could take equal advantage of what they have to offer, I think Nintendo would almost dominate because of the nostalgia factor and the character IP. I mean, I think they could kill it, really. But I don't see them going that route. They've kind of gotten away from that. I grew up with Nintendo, and the NES was better than the competition at the time. The Super Nintendo, did 256 colors versus the Genesis's 16. The N64, I thought, put out better graphics than the PlayStation. It just couldn't do the cutscenes and a lot of the voice because it wasn't a CD. The GameCube was a technological beast, believe it or not. It was on par with the original Xbox and blew PS2 out of the water. The graphics were great. And then all of a sudden, the Wii came out. Or and it was just, what? It almost looked like a step back from the Cube.
Yes, I agree.
And
I agree.
like, I'm kind of tired of spending hundreds of dollars on a system that, in my opinion anyways, is subpar tech-wise, just because I did grow up and really love Nintendo's IP. At the very least, and on the other hand, if they're unwilling to go what I said with the Power Console, how about maybe a year after their exclusives come out on what they have for the diehards that can't wait? If they were to put their games onto PlayStation and Xbox and even PC as well, oh my God, I can only imagine how many more sales Zelda and Mario Kart and Smash would have. And I don't think it would damage, like, the Switch as an example, sales at all. I really don't. The diehards aren't going to wait a year. They're going to get the game. And all of us that don't necessarily play the Switch or own one, we'll buy those games on our systems, running better and looking great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Clowns, I kind of want to just come back to you on this. Nintendo is expected to sell 20 million units in 2018, which is phenomenal. You know, the one thing that Nintendo has over the PS4 and the Xbox One is the attach rate. We kind of talked about that in the beginning of this topic. You know, games sold compared to console sold is something we've never seen before in gaming. Games like Zelda, Shady was talking about, where it was you know, almost a 1-to-1. You know, Super Mario Odyssey is another one. That game sold almost to every Switch owner. And you know what? Not by accident. So, if you haven't played Super Mario Odyssey, it's probably one of my favorite Mario games, and I'm an old bastard, right? You know, I've been gaming forever, and my favorite one of all time was you know, the launch title for the Super Nintendo, Super Mario World. And this just blew my expectations. You know, Cappy was just a living thing that just made the game so much fun. What are your takeaways on them? Again, I keep using the word magic because they have something with Nintendo where their games just really sell to their audience. What are your takeaways of what they did in 2018?
You know, I don't know what Nintendo's magic is. It always surprises me, to be honest with you. It's like they can come up with the latest gimmick and people love it. And I don't know what it is. At first, I doubted the Switch, but I started playing it and I loved it myself. I don't even know how they have such high attachment rates for the Switch. It blows my mind because, you know, Breath of the Wild came out for the Wii U also. It was actually a Wii U title. And nobody ever talks about the Wii U version. Everybody always talks about the Switch version.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I'm just shocked, Boom. I have no words to say. There's no logic to Nintendo. It just works. Nostalgia, man. I think it all comes down to nostalgia.
Well, you know what? I mean, listen, Shady, I want to come back around to you on this. You know, considering that Nintendo has been given the title, and we talked about this earlier, but I kind of want you to break it down, of the second console that most PS4 and Xbox gamers own. I think that's a good title to have. Because, you know, obviously between the PS4 and Xbox One, there are 140 plus million consoles being, you know, out there. So, you know, obviously, if the Switch is the second console to these guys, you can imagine how many Switches after a couple of years on the market are going to be sold. I could see them hitting 100 million, you know, in the next 2 or 3 years for sure. But, you know, what are your takeaways on that, though?
I think it's gonna tap out. I really do think the market of Xbox and PlayStation fans that are willing to spend a couple $100 to have access to their games, and a lot of these third-party games are running like massively inferior. And like I said, we're gonna have our own portable options as Xbox and PlayStation fans. I would assume here it sounds rather quick, like over the next year, maybe 2 at most.
Right.
And we'll be able to utilize some of this portability that they've been touting with the cloud and PS Now. So I'm not too sure what Nintendo is going to do damage-wise moving forward. I think they're going to still sell a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised to see, honestly, a bit of a sales slump with Nintendo's Switch. That's what I'm predicting, is that the market has become almost saturated with them. And moving forward, like when Metroid comes out, everyone thinks it's going to sell huge consoles. And I think that the only big uptick they're going to see is the only Metroid fans that haven't bought a Switch yet, because there's no Metroid. Outside of that, it's the same established Nintendo fan base that already has one. So unless they do some kind of, let's call it a themed console for the Switch with Metroid, I'm not sure they're even going to see a huge sales spike with it. They'll see a ton of game sales itself.
Yeah,
but
sales
like,
going to be big.
let's just say, like, moving forward, I think Nintendo's in a little bit of a tricky position because they have already sold their console to their established fan base. It's already there. And as you have mentioned, it is a very big choice as the secondary console. I also believe that a lot of the Xbox guys own a PlayStation and vice versa.
Oh, yeah.
And just have an insane preference. Like, I have all 3 in my house, but I talk 99% Xbox. If you didn't hear that, that I own the other ones, you wouldn't know it. Just wouldn't know it because I don't speak about them. And I think that's the case in a lot of people's households as well. I think that the actual hardcore gaming community that's buying all this stuff overlaps really hard. A lot of the people that are buying Microsoft exclusives are buying PlayStation exclusives, who are buying Nintendo exclusives. Like, we're all playing the same games at the end of the day, the diehards. So I'm rooting for Nintendo, I'm interested to see where they're going to go. I don't think that they're going to still run away with the crazy success that they've been going. I'm not sure they can maintain it myself.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point. You know, Alan, I want to come back around to you on this because you know there have been rumors about the possibility of a new Switch, a more powerful Switch, a faster Switch coming out in 2019. Now again, these are just rumors. I don't have any confirmation through sources or anything, but it's the talk of the town. In your opinion, do you think that it behooves Nintendo to re-release the Switch in a more powerful version?
What I actually think would be more beneficial is an upgraded dock. A dock that provides
Nice, smart.
updated specs, so you don't have to buy a new console, you just buy a new dock.
Good idea.
I think that would be better, because let's be real here. Switch games look great on the handheld display. They look
absolutely
fantastic.
do. Yeah, they don't.
But they don't look good when scaled up to a 4K screen, or even a 1080p one in some cases. That's where having an upgraded dock would help immensely. Having an upgraded Switch console, you're not going to be able to get ridiculous horsepower out of the handheld form factor unless you're a company like Apple who's making your own chipsets and you're able to sell the thing for $1,000. It's not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I think an upgraded dock would make more sense, especially if you want to get a big power difference rather than just a small upgrade. If they were to upgrade the dock, I'd be quite interested in buying that. If they were to upgrade the Switch console itself and you'd have to buy a new system, I would not be interested.
What do you think, Alan, on them actually opening up the current Switches to streaming? Like in Japan right now, you can stream Assassin's Creed Odyssey to your portable Switch, and without that stream, the system cannot play the game.
Correct.
It's not just because they're looking to control you with it there. It's because the power is not there. The streaming is actually what enables the Switch to be able to pull that game off. So what if moving forward, Nintendo has the ability to have, some kind of a Nintendo stream, and we start seeing more of these third-party games launching day and date and almost running at, the 1080, 60 in the games that are expected. And like very comparatively, do you think that's an option instead of releasing new hardware at all?
I definitely think that's an option, especially when you look at what Sony and Microsoft are also doing as well. I definitely think it's an option, but I think that the Switch would probably need to get a cellular option as well.
Yeah.
I would think so, yeah.
So you could hook it into 4G and 5G, because that's the other thing too, because it is a very much an on-the-go system as well. So I do think having cellular there is important. But even just then, even just streaming it on Wi-Fi or whatnot, it would make sense. But then it's also weird as well, because it's like, like people like us, if we have the choice of where we're going to be playing Assassin's Creed, we can either play it in native 4K on the X or stream it to our Switches. We're playing that thing on the X.
We are,
of course. Yeah, absolutely.
If you got a PS4, you're playing it on PS4. If you've got a PC, you're playing it on PC. If you got a Switch, well, that'll do for the Nintendo exclusives. I think that's how a lot of people look at the Switch. The only reason you really want to buy third-party games on Switch is so you can play them on the go.
I would think so. Or you're just a Nintendo, or a true diehard, and that is your main console,
Absolutely.
Then I could see it. But I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, listen, great point. Everybody, I really, and of course I have to still get the Indies and Clown's take on this. Indy, I want to go to you on this. Before I do, real quick, Jay Zayas with the $10 super chat. I super appreciate that. He's a big supporter of this channel. I want to thank him publicly. He says, "Thanks, Boom, for always putting on a great show together with a top-notch panel." And yes, indeed, I agree with that. Today's panel is amazing. Indy, 2019 for the Switch is going to start out very strong. If you're a fan of the Super Mario and Super Luigi Wii U game, because it's coming out on January 11th. Now, again, yes, I understand it is a port, but those games looked gorgeous. They played like your classic Mario games. There's a lot to get into for that. It's coming out at a very good price. In your opinion, do you see Nintendo continuing to go into their back catalog and bring games forward to the Switch in 2019?
Yeah, I think they need to. I think they need to keep the momentum up for sure. They've been doing so well, but I think it could easily drop off if they were to to lose that momentum. Really, I also think they do need to do something hardware wise too to make sure that they're just keeping competitive. And I think the dock idea is amazing, to be honest.
That was a fantastic idea. Someone hired
genius.
this guy.
Yeah, I know. You should get in contact with him. I think that's brilliant because actually, as I said before, I keep going on about, but I've sold my Switch. I did get rid of it, and I was only playing it docked because I'm not really a traveler. Don't work all around too much. So yeah, I didn't really get around with it, and I saw that as a bit of it's pointless having it if I didn't have that. But and when it was docked, it was looking inferior. I know that we had the charm of the Nintendo games. That was fantastic. Playing Mario Kart and everything on there was absolutely fantastic, but it wasn't enough to keep me there. But yeah, so a bit more of an oomph from a dock might have kept me there, basically. If it just just that little bit extra that can run some more third-party games a bit better, I think that might have it would influence me. It would have a bit more clout to keep me maybe on the Switch. But yeah, so I definitely think they need to change something up though, like that, and keep those big games coming. Look into in the depths of the back catalogs. Just keep it flowing. I think they really need to keep the momentum up for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm expecting some surprises from Nintendo. Clowns, I want you to finish off this topic because obviously, again, you're a showrunner and you really keep your ear to the floor in the industry. When the whole shenanigans came about Sony pulling out of E3, Reggie Fils-Aimé was very quick to tweet that and get interviewed immediately on how important E3 is still to Nintendo. And he promised very, very big things this E3. I'm excited. I really, really like their Treehouse event. They're very family oriented. They're close niche. They really, even though they're pre-taped usually, they're done in a way that keeps me as a fan glued to the screen. For 2019, do you think that the first party influence and the strength of that particular thing is going to propel them to sell more Switches?
I think the Switch will continue to sell. I think the versions that we have now will sell less, but I think their next revision is gonna convince people to upgrade some of them, like especially the diehard fans. I think I'll bring even more new people over. And to be honest with you, Boom, I know this is a long shot, but I'm really hoping that the next Switch will have some type of 5G capabilities. I mean, with D-Link announcing that the 5G home router has 3 gigabit download speeds per second. I mean, that's huge.
Oh, baby. So
Yeah,
Big.
that's a huge thing. And Switch in Japan has already experimented with Google Project Stream. That's how they were streaming games.
Yes.
And I just think with those capabilities together, the Switch will be, a main console for people on the go constantly.
Yeah.
I do think they need a little bit of an upgrade on the screen. But other than that, I mean, I think the potential's there for Nintendo to smack a blockbuster out.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm right there with you. I think they're going to bring it in 2019. I think that they, again, sure, Smash Brothers came out December 7th, right? And that's their big seller. But you can't discount what they did throughout the year. They kept updating the games. Like Splatoon, they kept having the events. They kept, making that game fresh. You had Mario Party come out, which was much better than at least the last 4. And you have all these updates to the games. I think what they're doing is smart. I think that we're going to see some really big surprises. And what they are, I have no idea. I don't know if we're going to get Metroid Prime 4 this year. I would love to. But Reggie would not have said, "Hey, listen, come to E3. We got some big things planned." If he didn't have anything up his sleeve. But yeah, and I think that we all really knocked it out of the park with the Nintendo topic. I want to move on to the last of the 3 big ones. Of course, that is my favorite brand, the Xbox. and in my opinion, probably had the best year out of the three. And listen, when I say that, let me explain before I get all the boo birds to come out. Of course, this is an opinion, and it is subjective, and depending on where you plant your flag, might be different, and I totally get that. But what I mean by a better year, and if you're in a chat and you're like, wait, what is Boom talking about? I don't understand. Well, I'd like to look at the overall picture of each of the companies and their comings and goings. And like we've already discussed, the PS4 had a monster year for first party. Nintendo went into their incredible backlog of games and re-released them on the Switch. And of course, they had huge third-party support, which is normally an Achilles heel for Nintendo products. I mean, everyone knows that. But we have to talk about what Microsoft did as a company. Sure, they had exclusives. Now, they may not be your exclusives per se, but they were exclusives nonetheless. And there are a lot of people that enjoyed them, more specifically Sea of Thieves. In our panel today, we have a pirate legend who enjoyed the shit out of Sea of Thieves. It's a game that I did not wrap my brain around, because for a guy who's an older dude, and I think that's well established, I like single player games, even though I enjoy multiplayer games and love them. But that to me for Sea of Thieves was missing. I wanted the single player campaign. I wanted a story, and from what I understand, that will be coming down the line. So I'm excited for that. But when we talk about games as a service, titles like Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2 released with some issues, but are now very, very good-looking games. They run fine. They have a big fan base, and of course, the third one in the wheelhouse is, of course, Forza Horizon 4. It was deemed a masterpiece by pretty much everyone. Playground Games once again showed their prowess in the racing genre. I'm going to go to you first, Shady, on this. Again, when you talk about first-party games, yeah, sure, they're very important. There's no doubt about it. And Microsoft did have, in my opinion, good third-party good first-party games, but they weren't games for everyone. What were your takeaways on what they did in 2018 in regards to first-party?
In regards to the first party in 2018, I think they delivered some, especially with Sea of Thieves, something really special there that has a lot of room to grow and has done so and will continue to do so. I'm looking forward to that arena mode. It looks like it's going to deliver everything Sea of Thieves has to offer in an instant, condensed version. You just go in and you don't have to sail for 15, 20 minutes between island to island with your crew. You're just in there and you're fighting other guys for treasure and you're getting the hell out, or at least you're trying to. And that mode really appeals to me because it's quick and in and out, and it is the in-between sailing from island to island that gets to me in Sea of Thieves. The graphics are gorgeous, but I can only look at them for so long and appreciate them for so long and call it fun, let's say. I don't hate the game, but I don't play it nearly as much as I did back in the day, so I'm looking forward to getting back in. I unfortunately didn't touch State of Decay almost. It's just not my bag, if you will. It's a little too simmy. Taking care of this, I need more of that. I need some more of this too. I just wanted to kill zombies, and I was bummed that I had to pay for the horde mode, so I haven't done that yet. But Forza, I mean, come on, that game is insane. It turns non-racing fans, quote unquote, not. I hate racing games. I don't understand the mentality myself. I have always loved racing games. I mean, I've been driving an actual real-world car for over 20 years, and still to this day, it doesn't escape me that this is awesome. You're behind the wheel of some with all this horsepower. You hit a button or a pedal, and away you go. You're driving around under your control. I still get a bit of a kick, a tiny bit of a thrill. The little kid in me still comes out and it's like, you know what? Whee! Not at all times when you're in traffic. Not when you're in traffic, but like driving, it's awesome. And in a video game, when you get let loose in a Lamborghini, woo! It's to me unparalleled. I am down with that Forza. I kind of wish there wasn't a year off of Forza, but that's okay. I hope they come out swinging big time with the next one in the series. And as far as maybe not game specific, we can't deny the fact they bought a lot of studios.
Yes, well, we're gonna come back around to that because
I'll
that's
just tease that. That's it.
Yeah,
right?
that's an important part. Again, it's great when a company does good at one thing, but it's better when they do good thing. They do good on everything.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
And then first party style again with exclusives. I think they made an absolutely undeniable pro-consumer, brilliant, one of the greatest things in the industry ever is the Game Pass,
Yes.
where you have that Game Pass and day and date you are getting their exclusive, quote-unquote exclusive games. That is absolutely fantastic. I'm saving nothing but money over here.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. I'm a massive proponent. So I think that has to be brought up on when it comes to exclusive stuff. Giving them to your fans for $10 a month on the same day they launch. That is huge.
Yeah, again, it is a big deal. And you know what? You know, I have to continue the Forza talk because we have the ultimate Forza fan and a guy that writes for it on a regular basis. You've been to their studio, you know the guy, you know the developers by first name. Heck, you might even have some of their cell phone numbers and be invited to the next barbecue. But of course, I'm talking about Alan Walsh. Listen, you know, Forza is the gem of 2018. Not just for you know, the Xbox brand, but I mean gaming as a whole. I mean, it is a masterpiece. You know, I've heard on different shows that you know, that it was kind of like poo-pooed for game of the year because it's a racer. I think that is bullshit. Personally, I think that if the game is that quality, regardless of whether you're flying in a wingsuit, going underwater diving, or driving in a car that looks as good as what they have in Forza, it should be nominated. It should have been in there. A game like Celeste, even though I understand it's D&D darling, took a spot, and basically it was a slap in the face to Playground Games, in my opinion. And maybe that's me just kind of you know, being slightly biased. But I have to say that Forza was amazing. In your opinion, could the game have been any better? Because I don't think it could have been.
Could have been any better. Well, yeah, there's always things hardcore fans are asking for, and there are massive wish lists out there. I can assure you that much. There is definitely more they can do, and they are always pushing. Like they did a lot of stuff in 4 that no one could have predicted. Like the seasons are obviously their big headlining feature, and it's stuff no one could have predicted. But yeah, there's still stuff they can do. Like they have a route creator in there, but it's a really, really basic route creator in comparison to say what's in GTA. So I'm really hoping this year they can improve that quite a lot. But other than that, in terms of the game itself, it's absolutely phenomenal. You know I love it. You know I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I play it almost every single day. I think it's truly wonderful. I think the weekly updates are really nice. The monthly content releases are really good. We got Fortune Island, which is a solid expansion.
Oh, that's gorgeous, man. And those lightning strikes are just unbelievable.
The Northern Lights really look great in HDR. That's a really nice showcase there. The game is so good, and Britain was a really great location. Technically, it's so great. You know, one of the details I really appreciate a lot recently are the what's the word for them? They're the night shadow casted lights. Essentially, you only get them on the Xbox One X 4K mode and on high-end PCs, but it's essentially light shadow reflections from the headlights of your car, and that detail looks so incredible. And that's not something you see on console games. If you only got that on the PC, so to see Forza doing that on console is incredible. And like when you just think about as well, Microsoft's lineup of exclusives in 2018, I thought it was pretty all right. You know, I think obviously Horizon 4 was that big heavy hitter for them. Sea of Thieves, I didn't play it a huge amount. State of Decay 2 got a bit repetitive for me, but you know, Horizon 4 was where it was at. And also, the other thing I really liked about last year is they kept updating Forza Motorsport 7, which I really appreciated. They did a lot of stuff with that game. If you haven't logged into Forza 7 in a while and you have the game and you enjoy it, I highly recommend going back to it. They've done a lot of stuff. They've redesigned the menus. They've given the game a fresh coat of paint. They've added so many free cars. They've added a lot of new features, and there's more coming. They're going to be shipping their January update for Motorsport 7 in about a week or two from now. They're still doing monthly updates for that game and for Horizon 4. Something as well I actually want to mention real quick again is that when they removed the prize crates from Forza 7, That's actually quite a significant point when we think about Microsoft's future exclusives, because I think it means Microsoft are actually backing away from the trend of microtransactions and loot boxes.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think what they did in Forza Motorsport 7 is really important when you think about Gears 5 and Halo Infinite. I don't think they're going to do microtransactions nor loot boxes in either of those games because of what they did with Forza 7.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly makes sense. And, Microsoft is, the one thing I have to give them credit for is they are ahead of the curve on a lot of their technology. But when it comes to trends, you've noticed the last couple of years, at least since Phil took over, they're kind of just cruising rather than going at 100 miles an hour to see the gaming scope, and I think that's going to serve them very well in the next generation for sure. But and indie, I have the next part of this topic, because you're the indie gamer, I'm talking about two smaller titles, and I didn't do that on purpose. It actually just happened to work out that way. But two smaller titles in Ashen and Below finally got released through Game Pass, and they've been the real talk of the town. I mean, as expected, they are the indie darlings that everyone expected. Ashen is just not a game for me, and Below, unfortunately, it's just not a game for me. But I applaud two things. One, they came to Game Pass, which is great. And the fact that everyone who has Game Pass gets a chance to play this. What were your takes on Microsoft closing out the year and what they had, in my opinion, a good year with these two exclusive titles?
Well, controversially, maybe. And unfortunately, they're not my type of game either, even though they are indie games. They fall into that category, but obviously indie game. I like a lot of indie games, but still meaning the games within that particular genre. Obviously, I'm still going to choose the games that I particularly like within that genre. So, but yeah, no, I played Ashen, just found it, quite. It was quite boring, if I dare I say. I mean, the art style was nice. Just couldn't get into it really, and I've watched a fair bit of Below. I haven't even dived into that, to be honest with you, because I've been playing so much other stuff, and it's kind of like, it's just so much on our plate right now. It's just crazy, and Game Pass is killing it. It's just coming at you every left, right, or center with new games. So it's kind of I don't. It's not really. Not my type of games, unfortunately. But yeah, unfortunately, so it's kind of I can't give you much on those two particular games, I'm afraid, Boom. But yeah, it's great to see them in there, that's for sure. And they really have been absolutely smashing it, bringing so many great titles into Game Pass. It's just been fantastic. Like, I think it's probably one of the biggest successes for Microsoft this of the last few years, for sure. Definitely.
I think that's one of the best parts about those two games is, one, they kind of came out right at the tail end of the year with very little
fanfare.
Yes, if you will. Like, they didn't have a huge marketing campaign behind them. So it was a nice surprise. And I wasn't expecting them to show up in Game Pass, especially Below. I didn't think Below was. I wasn't even sure it was going to come out. We heard that it was like before the end of the year, and we're all looking at our calendars kind of like, yo, there's like a week left. What are you doing? Yeah. And I have been looking forward to Below myself for years. Just the top-down, almost Zelda from the SNES. Yeah. Like, oh, man, I was sold instantly. And I really like that game. It is very atmospheric. The music is really good. You get a serious sense of being alone, because you're just tiny in this empty big cave system. But I'm not a fan of the survival aspect.
Yes, the drinking thing.
The food, and that's really like, even the drinking I'm okay with. There's enough lakes that you can kind of drink water from everywhere that I find myself not dying from thirst, but constantly dying from hunger. And even like the graphics they use for the turnips and the ingredients that you can cook up, it almost looks like that was a last thing that they added in on top of the game. It doesn't fit the graphics of the rest of the game. It's kind of just white, simplistic, flat, and stands out, clashing with everything. I know they probably think it's like so you can see them because you need to get them, but I think they don't fit visually, and I just don't like my games constantly forcing me to play their way. I like to play games my way.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of want to touch on what you're saying. I hope that they hear the fan base, and they give an ability to turn that off. because then I'll play the game. If I can
Yeah.
play the game and I only have to be worried about the monsters and my stupidity dying, then I'm perfectly okay with that. But real quick, before I get to clowns, I have to say a big thank you to Fastback247 with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. That is greatly appreciated. He says, great Breakfast with Boom show, from panel to the chat. And of course, a big thank you to the moderator of the beer or drink, beer drinker of the year. Of course, we're talking about UK Dazarus. The clowns, you know what? Listen, I want to finish up this topic. Well, I'm not finishing up because we have more to talk about, but I want to kind of get your opinion on this. Listen, I understand as a gamer, the main reason why you'd buy or purchase a console is for games. I mean, that's obviously at the forefront. That's why you buy a console. And I totally get that. But you know what? There's something about Microsoft's services that just seem to be the secret sauce of this burger patty that we're going to just all devour. And I think it's important because, they're leading the charge on that more than Nintendo and more specifically Sony. What are your takeaways on the service being so strong for the Xbox brand?
I think, it's a very smart move. I'm glad to see that Game Pass is coming out in full force. And I mean, Xbox has definitely listened to the fans, because at first a lot of fans were like, oh, I already have these games, or I don't see a need for this. But now that they're throwing more stuff in there, like Below, Ashen, and things like that, it's getting more people to come in and be like, oh, okay, I'll check this out. Yeah, this is kind of cool. Ark's in there now too, I believe. So I mean, like they just keep expanding. And it's blowing my mind, because to be honest with you, Boom, I don't know what type of agreements they have with these devs, but I don't see how these devs are, making money as if they're selling the game separately. Like, it's blowing my mind. They got some type of agreement worked out, and it's working for both parties, and that's great. And it's a big, huge service to the fans. And I'm big hype for 5G, and I think the future services with Xbox and 5G combined, play on the go anywhere, even on your cell phone, is going to be fantastic. I think, the Xbox has just got the future made for them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think that they, Phil Spencer coming in 2017 and, being basically the right hand of Satya Nadella, it really propelled them in a direction I think it's going to serve the company good. But you know what? I'm actually happy it worked out this way. Shady, I'm going to come back to you because we're going to talk about Game Pass. And literally, because you're the president, CEO, and most rah-rah guy I know for Game Pass, this service exploded on the scene, offering subscribers nearly 200 plus titles to download directly to their hard drives, and basically blew the doors off anyone's expectation by adding 15 games in December. And then they start the new year with a massive amount of titles, some of which I've never played, so I'm going to take full advantage of it. For you as a person that really does enjoy the service and takes full advantage of it, how important is this particular service to the brand moving forward 2019 and beyond?
I think it's huge myself. Absolutely huge. I think it's so big, honestly, that the rest of the industry will be following suit very soon. I mean, EA is already doing it on PC. I think we are months almost from that being unveiled on Xbox.
I can't wait, dude. That's one of my most anticipated things. Yes.
That's right. I'm an instant subscriber. I buy at least 2 EA games a year at full price. In Canada, that's $160. They're going to ask for $10 a month instead of the $250 a month they ask for right now for EA access. I mean, they give EA access away. My God.
Yeah,
just in the discounts for buying 1 or 2 EA games, it almost pays for the whole year. It's insane bargain. So I really hope that they come out with that on Xbox. I think PlayStation is going to follow suit. That's how competition generally works.
Yes.
I mean, if these PlayStation exclusives are as must have, must play, must everything that they are to a lot of people out there, being able to have access to them for a $10 service would sell a lot of subscriptions, to Sony. It would sell a lot of consoles, what have you. Like, this is Microsoft's setting another trend that is changing the industry, like what they did when they normalized online gaming, parties, things like that. I love the shakeup. I think this is an amazing thing that is really going to open up gaming to more and more people. And that's an amazing thing, because gaming today, as far as like the serious quote unquote business world, what have you, out there, they don't look at it like Hollywood, if you will. It's still very juvenile. It doesn't have the respect, even though it makes the most cash. It's not quite seen there yet. I mean, we still have arguments. Are video games art? I'm like, I don't know. Do you have eyes? Obviously it is. Like,
I love it.
It's a little bit bizarre, but I mean, moving forward, I think that Game Pass and having your games launching day and date, especially now that there's 13 of these studios behind the scenes starting to crank them out, that's fantastic. On the exclusive front alone, I am saving huge money every year because I have permanent access to the games that I used to buy full price. I don't have to buy them anymore. And on top of that, I've got almost 200 other titles, which since the launch of this service have vastly improved.
Yeah.
Those other titles on offer aren't throwaway indies. They're actually worth looking at. They're critically acclaimed and fun to play for an old school gamer where, like I said, graphics aren't the be all and end all. I can play an old school looking game and have the time of my life and not run away because it's pixelated.
Right.
So there's a lot of amazing games in there. The game earlier I was mentioning was Thomas Was Alone. You're literally a square and a rectangle, and that's like, that's it. And I was enjoying myself. So like, there's fun to be had here at a blockbusterly bargain price. It's worked in the movie model with Netflix, and it's going to work for Disney. They're going to be serious. And I think that it's going to really work for Microsoft moving forward. And a lot of these other companies see Game Pass as a brilliant way to market their upcoming games. Bethesda is currently doing this. So is WB with Mortal Kombat. If you notice, Fallout 4 was put in there right before Fallout 76 came out. And Doom is now in there. We got Doom Eternal coming. And
Mortal Kombat X.
Mortal Kombat X. That's right. And we have a Mortal Kombat coming. So this is the way some of these other companies use it. And they said they have seen huge success. Phil Spencer in a recent interview said that games in Game Pass get 6 times the users almost overnight. Keep in mind, with Game Pass, everyone is here spending money to access games. So we're all waiting with bated breath for what's the next game that's going to come out. I want to try it. And we all try a lot of these games that we wouldn't normally buy. And they see this trend happening and they love it. They absolutely love it. This is a fantastic program, and I want to see it mirrored around the entire system, because there's no denying, in my mind, I think just on paper, anyone who's reasonable, this is the future.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Real quick, I have to say a big thank you and shout out to Punkadish Gaming with the $2 super chat. Thank you so much. He says, Boom is the man. I certainly appreciate that. And he says, have a great show, buddy. And of course, Crazy Gamer and Chloe gives the $3 super chat. Thank you so much. That is really greatly appreciated. Alan, I kind of want to go to you for a second. You know, last year, the announcement of Project xCloud pretty much shocked the gaming world with the ideology that Xbox gaming would find its way onto phones, tablets, TVs, and other devices. And then the report of the 2 next-gen consoles in the form of the Lockhart and the Anaconda may pave the way into the next generation as a big win for Microsoft, because they're basically covering every gamer. They're going to be obviously approaching the casual gamer with the mindset that, hey, listen, you don't want to buy a $500 or $600 box. I hear you. Here's a $100 streaming box, and oh, by the way, Game Pass is $10 a month. You get 200 games out of the gate. What are your takeaways of how important this triple threat, if you will be working for the Microsoft platform?
I think, you know, a lot of what they did in 2018 was about gearing themselves up for this, was about gearing themselves up for the future. And I think they're trying to really cover all bases. It's why they did Play Anywhere. It's why they did the PC stuff. And let me go on a quick tangent here for a second. But recently, I've started playing Horizon 4 a lot with people who are on the PC. I played on One X, they're playing on PC. And it's great. and it works so well, and I freaking love it. And the fact they've done this stuff with Play Anywhere, with crossplay, is amazing. And because I now know people who are playing a lot on PC, I want them to really heavily double down on this stuff, like crossplay, cross-buy. I want that to be a huge focus for them moving forward, and I think it will be. And I think that can be seen in what they're doing with their cloud gaming efforts. They want you to access your games no matter what the devices you're on. I like to toss around the quote a lot that Xbox is a service, not a console. And a lot of people sometimes don't like that line. But I think if you look at what Microsoft are doing, it is true. Xbox is a service. You access it on either a console, on either a PC, or soon a mobile device, or some kind of smart enabled device that allows you to stream the game. I think hardware for them, console hardware, I think is super important for them. I think you're going to see amazing, and I mean amazing, next gen consoles from Microsoft. But I think what they're doing as a whole with Game Pass, Play Anywhere, all that good stuff, I think it really ties into what a gaming ecosystem should be. Like, you look at like Netflix, you can access it everywhere. You can even download the movies to your phone and watch them when you're on a plane.
I love that. Yes, I love that. That's fantastic.
Everyone does it, and that's what Game Pass, I think, that's what they want it to be. They want to get to that point where you can play Horizon 4 on your console and then continue doing that race when you're, sitting in the back of a car, like a kid sitting in the back of a car, passing time, playing a game, playing Horizon on their phone. Then they come back. Maybe someone else is on the TV. They get out their laptop or their tablet. They continue playing Horizon on there. Then they maybe play it on a super high-end 4K PC natively. Then they go back to console, whatever the case may be. I think that's really what they wanted to be. And like Play Anywhere was the super, super early foundations for what I think is a much bigger and much grander initiative. Like, they've spoken before about how much they want to really improve their PC gaming stuff. I know that's a big focus for them moving into next generation. Cloud gaming is going to be a big deal for them. I just, like, if they get the execution right on some of this stuff, like, it really, really, really could be phenomenal. The one thing I really want them to figure out, though, is how can I play Xbox games on a plane? That's the hurdle I want them to overcome, because that's the one that's most important to me.
Well, you do a lot of flying because you obviously, you run, you're part of the media, not the scumbag media, the good part of the media that we all love, and we appreciate. And yes, you do a lot of traveling. So as someone who does prefer Xbox over the other two, it would make sense for them to double down on getting that fixed. I agree with you.
Yeah, because obviously the only way now you can do it is you need a high-end gaming laptop to run the native Windows 10 versions of the games. And yes, you can do that, but you don't really want to be lugging out a huge laptop on the plane to a massive gaming thing. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
yeah.
Is there no internet access at all on any airplanes? I was under the assumption that with some flights that was kind of a thing now today. I mean, I don't fly. Let me put that out there. Anyway,
there is internet access on some planes, but it's usually very weak and very, very expensive.
It's sketchy at best. It really is.
It's also very expensive. Like I did try it before, and it's like the speeds you get are bad, and to think you're paying like $20-$30 just for one flight, it's ridiculous.
Good Lord! So you're saying it's shady? I'll go with that. I'll go with that.
It is. It's very shady. I think the tech will get there when it comes to playing internet, but it's gonna be another few years, and air carriers are gonna need to get a lot less greedy as well.
Yeah, well, listen, you know what? Again, new things are happening. I'm excited to be at this, part of the generation. 20, obviously, we're going to see a big change in 2020. I think for everything. Real quick, Axel 1324 with the incredible $5 super chat. Thank you so much. He says, "My core gaming group is active duty military. I first want to say thank you for your service. I'm ex-military as well, and the fact that we can play Sea of Thieves or State of Decay together using Play Anywhere is truly appreciated. And yes, that is a big thing. I think it's a lot of people don't use it, but the fact that it's there is a big deal. Indy, I want to go to you on this on the next part of this topic. Let's talk about Phil Spencer for a second and how he and Microsoft basically made history in 2018. When you talk about the year overall, and that's why I think Microsoft is the winner of the three when it comes to who made the biggest strides in a year. Again, I don't look at just games or services or console strength or who has the biggest fan base or who has the biggest toxic trolls. I look at the overall picture of success. And, there's a couple of things that come to mind that I think are going to stand out for the Microsoft Corporation, more specifically for Xbox. First and foremost, they surpassed Apple as the richest company in North America, and that's a big deal. Because Apple is the king, right? We understand. We all understand that. And they did something never before seen in gaming by acquiring 6 studios and the creation of the Initiative, which is a quadruple A studio, the first of its kind in this generation. How big of a deal was that for Microsoft? I mean, do you think that was the basically the flag planted into the ground that they're here to stay in gaming?
Definitely. I mean, this last few years has been all, like some people have said. I think I can't remember who said it, but it's been sort of like a slow build up rather than just a throw everything at it in a short term. They're looking long term. They're forming their army. They're building the the different areas. They're really setting up for the long haul, in my opinion. They've Phil is an absolutely awesome thing for Xbox. He's done so much to change things. He's really relatable kind of guy as well. But not only that, he's behind the scenes he's fantastic. He's a perfect person to lead. But a lot of people who I think they relate to him that as an actual gamer rather than just a sort of corporate suit kind of thing. He's I think he's perfect. He's done so much for Xbox. And yeah, like I say, like the last few years, it's been something where I think they've been very careful about how they've done everything. They've sort of added services in like Game Pass. I mean, like I said again, Game Pass is absolutely outstanding. It's I got on Game Pass quite early, and at the start, it's just like compared to now from when Game Pass was
it's night and day, dude.
I was just gonna say, it's literally night and day. There was at first they were just chucking in a few, little whatever they could just get in there, and a lot of Xbox 360 games in there at first. Now that's all sort of been phased out for like games like they've just gone in, like Life is Strange 2. That's a really new game that's just gone in. I'm hoping that's going to be the full. Episode 1's going in I think it's in a few days' time, and I'm hoping that's going to be the full episodic of the whole lot as that comes. But yeah, like things like that, and the big games like Doom and things like that in there is absolutely awesome. But yeah, I think they've been really careful about building the studios, building the foundations for much bigger things rather than just sort of like short term spikes. They're looking more long term and moving into next generation. I think they're gonna be in an excellent position to really take on the competition.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that what you were saying makes a lot of sense. You can start a race and run out. Like
exactly,
blow past everybody. And then a perfect example of that is look what happened with Sony. They blew past everyone, and now they're like, and Microsoft, they're doing the slow and steady, right? They're just chugging along, and they're going at a nice pace. And now they look poised to pass Sony, but only time is going to tell. Clowns, I want to go to you next on this, dude. Talking about first party, they doubled their first party in a 6-month span, proving to the fan base that they're listening and that they're aware of the first party shortcomings. There's no doubt about it. But 2019 and beyond is looking very bright for the Xbox brand and its rabid fan base. What are your takeaways by with the moves that they've made as a fan of the brand? Do you walk away satisfied saying, yeah, that they heard me, they heard my kicking and screaming?
I think so. I want to say that. I think Xbox has built this rapport with their fan base where they're open. You can communicate with a lot of their executives and employees on Twitter and other social platforms. A lot of times they will respond to you as long as you're not trolling them. They're very polite. They're very kind people. at least their social media presence. And I think for the fans, Xbox is killing it. They're doing everything that fans want. Fans want easy access to games. They're giving us Game Pass. Fans want to be able to stream games in the future. They're going to give us that in the future. I mean, it's just so fan oriented. And I think that Phil and the executive team understand that it's the fans that keep Xbox going. And they want to keep the fans pleased as much as they can, while still maintaining it as a proper business with, of course, a financial income to keep it going. And I think they're doing a great job.
Yeah, me too. And I again, I could not agree more with everything that you said. I think that the accessibility of execs are fantastic. And again, like I tell the story all the time. Aaron Greenberg. He gets a lot of shit, and I've given him some shit too. I'm not going to lie, because I want them to do better with their marketing. And I know he's not the only dude, but as a person, he's an amazing man. He does so much for so many that are needed, that need help. A real quick story. I have the Gears of War Elite controller, very, very rare, $800 on eBay, and the right bumper button broke. So I called, support, and I'm like, okay, listen, do I send in? Yeah, it's under warranty. We'll fix it, no problem. And they sent me the black one instead of the Gears of War one, which of course I was devastated. I sent out a tweet, and a few people in the community, Xbox Addict, God rest his soul, stepped in, reached out to the executive, more specifically Aaron, and said, "Hey, listen, you guys got to fix this. That controller, he paid $200 for, and you sent them one that was, $150. I don't think that's right." Aaron actually reached out to me personally. He messaged me personally and said, "Hey, Craig, listen, I hear about your problem. It's been brought to my attention. We're going to fix it. Don't worry about it." And he not only told me to keep the black Elite controller, they sent me the Gears of War Elite one, brand new. So it was an amazing story. I get goosebumps talking about it because who am I? I'm nobody but a fan, and they fixed the problem very quickly. You know what? I want to close out the Microsoft year in review with this. And I'm not going to go to you guys, because we're running into 2 hours, and we might just go over a little bit because I have 1 or 2 more questions. But I want to open this up to the panel. You see, I needed to talk about the adaptive controller. And I wanted to bring that into the conversation because this was huge for Microsoft and basically the world. And I dare say this might be the most significant controller to come out in gaming history, and I'm proudly standing firmly on my soapbox to say that. It's been a very long time for me personally since I witnessed a life-changing invention such as the adaptive controller. This simple controller will change someone's life, and I'm ultra proud to be an Xbox fan. And again, this question is for everyone on the panel, and please answer at will. How important was this invention, and how big is this for gamers who are part of the physically challenged community?
Huge. It's absolutely huge for both. I'm watching the videos of these people being able to enjoy a hobby that I've been able to absolutely love and enjoy my entire life. It brings tears to my eyes that fall out of them. I cry watching the joy that these people, like, imagine you haven't been able to take a step, maybe even in your whole life, let alone maybe years, however many time, and to play some of these games where you're exploring these worlds, running around, ninjas, karate, it has got to be so liberating. And I think for Microsoft to spend the obvious amount of it was expensive.
It was a development cost for sure. Yes,
there was a lot there, and to be able to put that there for let's be honest, a minority group of people, especially gamers, because it has not been very conductive for them to get involved. So they're just kind of never gave it the chance. A lot. Some try. I'm pretty sure it's almost a write-off for them because it would just be soul crushing for me, I would think, to not be able to do it. And this console, or not console, but this controller, man, it is such a good thing, such a positive thing. I was recently in a Microsoft store exchanging one of my controllers. They have absolutely stellar customer service, of course. Just be respectful, people. You don't need to come in there screaming and yelling in order for them to know that something is wrong. Just explain yourself. They'll take care of you. While I was there, the woman who was helping me, I was talking back and forth, and I just asked, how can you work for Microsoft? What is it that you like about it? And the very first thing she said is products like this controller just warm her heart, and everyone that buys them and the stories she hears associated with it, just they would melt anyone's heart when they hear it.
Yeah, I agree.
This is absolutely insane, and it needs way more front and center eyes on, knowing that this is there. Microsoft said they'll share the tech. Sony needs to do this. Nintendo needs to do this. PC, I'm pretty sure it works for PC, but like this needs to be out there, as I would say, as hard as the narrative that women are allowed to come and game with us dudes. It's obvious that is what is being pushed. Hey, girls, you're allowed to come and game. Look, you're in the mall. You're on the covers. You're the main characters. You can choose them. They're not all eye candy anymore. I think we need this controller to sit just as much in front and center to let everybody in the world know. And I don't think you need to be disabled, let's say, to partake in this. This is a controller that just lets the person use it in the way that they want to.
Yes.
With any adapter, able-bodied or not, or whatever the issue. I think this controller is amazing. I would love to get one even for myself and play around with it and see what kind of things you could do. I think this is brilliant. Period.
Yeah, I do. And you know what? The pricing is perfect. It's $100 for the actual device, and each of the accessories are anywhere between $20 and $24. They make it very accessible. And, you know, I'm going to bring up something, you know, again, I'm only bringing it up because he made it public. It's not something, you know, that I wanted to put out there because I don't look for any credit. I do things for people because I have a love for this community. J-Dubs, who is such an important part of this community. A lot of people don't know he plays games with one hand, and I was put in a financial position over the holiday where I had a couple extra bucks, and I sent him I bought it here in the States, and then I mailed him the adaptive controller as a thank you for everything he's done for me on this channel. I mean, Jay has been any question I've ever had. You got to remember, you know, my past career had nothing to do with gaming. It was law enforcement, and I didn't work on computers and do graphics and do intros and do any of that stuff. So I came into this as a greenhorn. And Jay, you know, when I needed help, he was always there. I mean, he's going to start teaching me OBS. You know, I have some really good things planned for the channel for 2019. He's teaching me that. So, you know, my wife and I surprised him, and we sent it. He got it, and he put a tweet out there, and you know, I couldn't. Again, he plays games with one hand, and now he doesn't have to. And I think that story in itself, not the fact that I bought it for him, it's just money. That's irrelevant. It's the fact that he can now play games with two hands is the story. And I think that's the story for many gamers, regardless of how severe your handicap is. Microsoft did something that no one did, and they didn't do it for a profit. That's where this story should be talked about by everyone. And I'm sorry if I'm sounding uppity, but I get really upset that this is not this. I mean, it came out, people talked about it, and it went away. And I don't think it should. I think it should be a conversation that should be had all the way until the cows come home, if you will. But if no one has anything else, anybody want to add anything in regards to the adaptive controller before we move on?
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick that I think it was just such a phenomenal product for Microsoft to make. And I think in a way, you know, none of us expected it, but it really goes to show Microsoft's vision about gaming for everyone and enabling everyone to game, and like the whole idea of inclusivity. It's just really nice. It's such a heartwarming product.
It is. It brought me to tears, like literally crying like a baby.
Product has been able to do already is truly incredible, and it's well priced. It's easy to buy. Even stuff like the packaging, the way you open up the controller, it's so simple. Like even, you know, I don't need one, but I'd love to play around with one and use it just to see what it's like, because I think you could do some really, really cool stuff with it. And I think it also it goes really well with some of the stuff Microsoft has been doing in their games. Not a lot of people know this, but Forza Motorsport 7 actually features some of the best accessibility options you'll find in a game. There's some really great things you can do in that game to make the driving experience work so well. If you can only play, say, with one hand, or if you have difficulty using a controller and you need to use something like the adaptive controller or a keyboard or something like that, Forza 7 has so many options for that. And like, in fact, Forza 7 is so robust that you can actually play the entire game with just one button press. Like you can literally just put down a finger or whatever it is on a button. The game will play for you, will race for you. And I think some of those tools are really incredible. Alan Hartman, who runs Turn 10, is very, very, very passionate about accessibility, and he's been recently working with Special Effect a lot, which is one of the teams who also worked on the adaptive controllers.
Yes.
You can see where it all ties in with each other. But the stuff they've done in Forza 7 is really, really, really cool. Like they introduced a bunch of new assists to make the game easy for people who need that accessibility, or even people who are just, you know, of younger ages and stuff. Like they have like super easy options for traction control and friction assist and all this stuff that just makes the game a lot easier when you're using these types of controllers. And it doesn't just make it easier, it allows you to actually be competitive, which is what's really important and really nice. The another thing as well that's great is a lot of gamers who actually have disabilities, they like to play with a friend in the same room. That's something that's really important for them, and Forza 7 has split screen. It's one of the few games that still has that, and when you pair it up with the great accessibility options that are in the game, it makes it what I think can be a really, really fun and even heartwarming experience.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, it's just when we broke down Microsoft as a whole in 2018, there were a lot of ships in the ocean, but they're all coming together. And to push along their narrative, which is the fan comes first, and accessibility, and not leaving anyone behind. And it's just an amazing way to close out this particular topic. I mean, look, let me just say this. The big three in 2018 had a great year. Gaming is at an all-time high. Sales records are being broken left and right. But again, I don't want to hold you guys up too long, but we're coming up on 2 hours, and we're probably going to go over a little bit. But this is the fun part of the episode that I wanted to kind of close out this. And this is probably for me as a showrunner, one of the best shows I've done. Might be in my career outside of Christmas with Boom. I mean, everyone had such amazing opinions and real solid thoughts, and the chat, of course, was just amazing. 130 plus people watching live for my small show is a big deal for me. But you know what? I want to go to each panel member, and I want to get your top 5 games of 2018. Shady, I want to go to you first. No particular order. What were your top 5 for you personally in 2018?
For my games in 2018, top 5, I picked a couple that I put in the most time, because that generally means I had the most fun with it. And then a few out of just absolute undeniable technical respect, and I have played them, of course, but that is how my criteria worked. I'm going to open her up with Battlefield 5. I cannot put this thing down. The online is brilliant in my mind. I've already maxed out the rank, so now I'm just going in. I know, I don't know what to say. I've never done it in Battlefield. It's usually impossible in Battlefield. It gets so insanely long. Somehow already rank 50. There's nothing left. I'm just unlocking, like I said, the pieces to my guns. I just got all the golds to my Sten gun.
You're just too good for your own good.
I'm winning World War II Rambo style, single-handed, leaving bodies.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it. That online for me is just so good. I put in a lot of hours, man. Good stuff. Cool. My next one, and this surprised me actually, and then when I thought about why it's even there, it makes sense. Monster Hunter World.
Nice.
Because I play with my brother a lot of co-op, and we got into that game. And I think it really stands out to me because for the first almost 10 hours, first over a day of me playing it, I hated it. And the only reason I was playing was because he was having a good time and I wanted to play with my bro. And just everything about the game, the way you could invite each other in the game to co-op, the way it moved, everything was just a clash. It was very Japanese, and I don't play a lot of those titles. And I got over it. Something clicked, and we were out there hunting monsters, and I loved it. I put in almost 150 hours over the year. Great. I'm going to follow it up with Destiny 2, the expansions, because it's priced like a normal game, which is why I include it. And again, because my brother and I put in just crazy hours playing this game. I adore it. The gameplay is fantastic. The co-op is great. I love the sci-fi element. I like getting as much loot as I can. So that's on my list as well. And then the big, serious, I think just have to be on the list. Undeniable. God of War on the PlayStation and Red Dead Redemption 2. I know this wasn't in any order, but that is my number one. That game it still blows my mind how it looks, the scale of the game, the dynamic elements of it. Like, I think it did so many things right and even pushed forward. I love it. That's my number one.
Well, that's solid picks. Alan, I want to go to you, brother. What are your top 5 for 2018?
Yeah, so my favorite game of last year as well is Red Dead Redemption 2. The story, the single player, the world, it drew me in. The characters I loved. I truly, truly appreciate the writing in Red Dead Redemption 2. Dan Houser and the senior writing team at Rockstar are so good at what they do, and I respect them so much. And the Red Dead Redemption 2 writing, it just appeals to me so much. I love it, the characters. Everything about it is just so good. The online mode, has its problems for sure, but when you just think about the single player experience, the world, and all the design elements that have gone into making it come to life, it's a truly, truly, truly incredible game. And I've actually been quite eager to go back to it recently, so I think I will do that soon.
Nice.
Also up there is Horizon 4. I don't really think I need to explain why, just a stellar racing game. My personal favorite exclusive game of the year. Really, really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. Call of Duty Black Ops 4. I wouldn't normally include a Call of Duty game in my top 5, but I really enjoyed that package. The multiplayer, the zombies with friends, the blackout mode. It's great. I do really like it, and some of the microtransaction stuff again is a bit iffy, but when you try to forget about that, Black Ops 4 is a really, really, really good package, and I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with Black Ops 4. Then there's Onrush.
Great title, man.
Criminally underrated, but it is on Game Pass. It's been handed out for free on PlayStation Plus last month. Great title, great racing game. It's a proper arcade racer.
It is.
It's the spiritual successor to MotorStorm. So if you like MotorStorm on the PlayStation, I think you're going to really like Onrush. Onrush is great, and it's also a big technical powerhouse for 1X. It's got 4K textures on there, so really, really cool stuff. And finally, my next one is a little bit surprising, but it's a game called A Way Out. It's one of my favorite EA games ever made by the legendary Joseph Fares.
Yeah, F the Oscars.
F the Oscars. I was a big fan of Joseph Fares before that moment. Even a bigger fan of him since then. A Way Out is some really great design elements that have never been seen in a game before. I love that split screen view that you get even when you're playing online. The fact one copy allows 2 people to play, its genius. You wouldn't expect it from an EA game. I love the storyline. The gameplay is great. There's some great mini games in there. There's Easter eggs, references, so much good stuff in A Way Out. The ending is absolutely brilliant as well. Highly recommend getting A Way Out. Buy it for yourself and a friend. Play through it all in one sitting.
Yeah, you guys can sit down 4 hours. You'll have that beat.
I recommend one sitting if you can. Really, really good stuff. And finally, a bonus mention. I want to mention Grand Theft Auto 5. Obviously, did not come out last year, but I've been playing it quite a lot recently with friends, switching between both the Xbox One and PC versions because I have friends on both. And I've been enjoying GTA Online a bit recently, even if it is a bit of an overpriced, grindy experience at times. But it's fun, and I've been playing.
It's the gift that keeps giving. Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of game modes on there. They recently dropped the Arena War update. It's pretty cool to check that out. It's something kind of different for GTA. So yeah, I think because of Red Dead Redemption 2, I kind of got into that Rockstar mood lately. So that's kind of why I went back to GTA 5. And that's why I wanted to mention it, because it's a fun game to play with friends. If you've got the right people, you can have a lot of fun on that game.
Yeah, absolutely. And Indy, I want to go to you, brother. What are your top 5 for 2018?
Okay, so basically, just quickly before I get into it, I play a lot of games late, as it seems, but I'm a bit of a bargain hunter, so I don't always play games when they first come out. But I've got a list here of games which are from 2018, so a lot of games I tend to play maybe 6 months to a year after, though. But yeah, so this list is compiled from this year's games anyway. So basically, to start off with, and probably the top game for me, Alan will be pleased to hear, it's Forza Horizon 4.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's just everything about it is amazing. I don't understand how I've played like all the Horizons so much, and literally this one still blows me away every time I turn it on. The visuals, everything about it, how it feels to race, it just feels good. You know, I mean, the only thing about it, I guess, would be sometimes I feel like coming last in a race, you shouldn't be getting as many points, but they want to make it all encompassing for everyone to enjoy. But so much about it, though, it's just got it all going on. The multiplayer, you know, you've got the worlds are so brilliantly created. It's just, like I say, it just feels so good to play. It's just
Wait a minute, Indy. How do you know how much last place is getting all the time? How do you know that?
I heard about it on a review the other day.
Hashtag asking for a friend.
Yeah, I just tried it out once. No, I'll never. I'm honestly, I'm a bit of a. If I'm in second place, I'll press start and restart. So I'm a bit of a. I want to win every race.
There's nothing wrong with that,
dude. But yeah, yeah. So that's one of my, you know, absolutely amazing, flawless game in my opinion. Yeah. So other than that, Alan's stolen another one of mine, which was A Way Out, which was an absolutely fantastic experience. Yeah, I played A Way Out with a buddy of mine who is only a casual gamer, but it was just great fun to be able to play through a co-op experience throughout with someone, you know, just one of you know, everyday friends kind of thing, and had so many great sort of creative features to it. It was you could tell it was made by someone who was a filmmaker before he was a gamer.
Right.
So, and you know, very cinematic, but great ideas with it forced co-op, which I thought was excellent. Hopefully we'd see more games like that, and hopefully maybe even something from the same developer, as he and his team were awesome. But yeah, and a really great ending, like Alan said. No spoilers. But yeah, that's that one. A couple of them I actually haven't quite finished to the end, but they have to be in there. Like Red Dead 2, I haven't finished at the moment, but it's just got to be on there. Everyone said everything about Red Dead already, and I'm sure I'm going to love it even more and more till I get to the end. By the way, everyone talks about the story, and I'm a big sucker for story. So, but it's just a brilliantly put together world. Again, I love a good world. But yeah, but no, like it's just, you feel so immersed in Red Dead. Well, it's fantastic. Yep, awesome game to play. Fantastic. And Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I don't know how many I've got to right.
That's
now.
5. That's 5.
That's 5 already.
Yeah.
One, two. Okay, I'm missing 2 for that. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, definitely on there. Amazing game. Again, that one I haven't completed as of yet. I'm going to chuck in another couple of extras because I've got a bit of a list on my side here, which have to be on there, which is Dead Cells. Definitely got to be on there. Fantastic indie game. Yeah, quite unforgiving at the first, but once you play it more and more, you start to realize you're working towards a goal. Yeah, love the art style of it. Great combat in that game. It really feels good to play again. And Overcooked 2 has got to be on there as well. I don't know how many I've done now. Apologies if I've gone well over. But Overcooked 2 is a great indie game, and a game that I played with my wife through completion. Cool. So that was kind of a good reason to have it on there, which she's not like a full like gamer. She just plays the occasional. She likes Sonic. She likes, you know, Overcooked, that kind of game. Just sort of like dabbles a little bit. So yeah, it was good fun to play through with her. And you know, I like co-op experiences and stuff like that. And you know, definitely give Overcooked a try if you haven't tried it already. It might be for you. It's a real good fun puzzle game, and I think it definitely deserves to be on a list of best games from the year. Okay. So yeah, thank you very much.
No problem. Strong. And close it out, clowns. What were your favorite games of 2018? Your top 5?
Wow, you know, Boom, this is such a hard choice for me because I don't think I really played that many games in 2018 that were from 2018. But I will say number 1 is AFC Odyssey. I think that game should have won Game of the Year everywhere. So well done. The story, the mythology was all on point. I don't care if people said it was repetitive. I thought it was a ton of fun. A lot of exploring to do, a lot of hours to put in. Great game. Forza Horizon 4 is my second favorite game of the year. I think that game is fantastic. So much fun with friends. And I agree with the other guys on the panel. A Way Out, another excellent title. And then, you know, Black Ops 4, I'm going to say I played that quite a few times once it came out. I had a lot of fun with Assassin Inferno and Blackout mode and other stuff. And then, you know, those are my top 4 of the year. And then for the top 5th snooze fest, number 1 snooze fest of the year for me was Red Dead 2. I just couldn't get into it, man.
Hey, listen, I understand. I'm having a difficult time finishing it. I'm at the end of the 4th chapter, and it's a little slow. But normally as a host, I don't get a chance to answer. I just ask the questions. So I'm gonna give you my top 5 in no particular order. First of all, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I put 178 hours into it. It's a masterpiece. Spider-Man for the PS4, absolutely fantastic. I'm 4 trophies away from platinum that. God of War, again, another one. I'm not too far away from the platinum. I absolutely love that game. Shadow of the Tomb Raider comes in at, and again, no particular order. The 4th, one of my favorite games. And then, sorry about the fire engines. They're not coming from me. The show is hot. There's no doubt about it. But I live on the main street, so of course. And last but not least, Detroit Become Human. Those are my top 5. Red Dead Redemption does not crack the top 5 for me personally. I think the game is flawless. I think it's gorgeous. It's just it's a little slow. So my top 5 will be rounded out by Detroit Become Human. I think it's an amazing emotional story that tells a very underlying story about race. That's not skin color, related, and I think that it's a story that some people may be able to relate to. I thought it was very strong. But you know what? Listen, like I said, we're already well past the 2 hours. I want to thank everybody on the panel for coming here. Oh my God, these sirens are killing me. Always during the end of the show. It's unbelievable. It's like clockwork.
It's the fanfare.
Yeah, you know what it is. I guess they're trying to, they're coming to put out the fire in this department. But you know what? Listen, before I get out of here and I do the outros, I kind of wanted to make some programming announcements. With this channel, normally I don't do live shows on Saturdays because I use that weekend time for family time with my amazing wife, Josette, who works Monday through Friday. So the weekends are dedicated to her. But on January 12th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this channel, I'll be having the Game of the Year award show. And my guests are going to be Neo Mental, who's my brother in real life, Jay the Retro Gamer, and Jay Fall 72. And we're going to be breaking down our top 10 picks for 2018 and our hopes for 2019. I hope everyone can join us. That's going to be next Saturday. A bit of information behind this. This is something we've been doing for the last 8 years. We call it our Game of the Year dinner. We get together as 4 guys. We go out to dinner. We talk games for a couple hours, and we go through our lists. It's actually very nerdy, if you will, but it's something I look forward to. So this year is the first year we're broadcasting it live. So I hope everyone can turn out for that. And next up, because I'm continuing the community spotlight. That's something that my wife actually suggested I continue doing, and it's really, the backbone of this channel. It's what the foundation is originally built on, was community and highlighting others, not just myself. I like I said, I'm just the host. I want to put the community way ahead of me because there's so many incredible people in it. Last month I debuted a new addition to the channel called Double Barrel Gaming Presents, and it launched in December. And my first guests were the entire panel members of the Incredible Iron Lord podcast. Someone who I suggest everyone should follow. These guys are absolutely fantastic human beings. But I'm extremely proud to announce that January's guests are going to be the entire panel from the Basement Radio Arcade podcast, who's run by Enrique on Twitter. We're going to be learning how the podcast came to be, how long they've been on YouTube, and what goals they have for the future of the show in 2019 and beyond. That show is going to be taking place on Saturday, January 19th at 3 p.m. Again, I hope everyone could be there for that and show support of BRAP, and also go and check out the Iron Lords. They just broke 1,000 subs. They've been doing this a long time. It's well deserved. But you know what? I got to give a big shout out to my panel. First of all, thank you guys so much for donating almost 2.5 hours of your time. Shady, listen, dude. We've become friends. You are definitely someone I really truly enjoy having on this show. I love your way you talk about games. You're very passionate. I love listening to you on RDX. I think that you bring the spice to that show. Please tell everyone where they can follow you and listen to you, on YouTube.
Thank you very much, Boom. I love guesting on your show and having access to the community you have here. It's fantastic, as everyone loves to say. One of the greatest, if not the greatest, chat in the entire community. Just awesome. If you're looking to give me a follow, I'm on Twitter at The Sesh Empire. That's one word. On Xbox, I'm just so shady. That's 2 words. And thank you so much again for having me. Like you mentioned, I am on RDX every single week, Dealer Gaming's channel. Absolute honor to be on there. Since joining this community, I have had a blast. That's it, man. It's been such a good time to see so many passionate gamers out there, and a couple adversaries have been made, which is cool too. I have a good time with it, you know. As long as it's not taken personal and given out personal, you know. And a little bit of snark here and there, I think, is funny. I'm out to have a good time, and really, like you said in the intro, I put the boot on the necks of some of this crazy idiocy out here. I got no time for that garbage. This is gaming. Let's have some fun. Thanks for listening, everybody. Peace out. I'll see you out there.
Nice, very nice. Way to close it out, Shady. Alan, listen, you know what? I kind of talked you up already. I did your outro as an intro, but I'm going to do it again because I'm a big fan of your work. We've become very good friends. We obviously work together every Friday on the Crossfire podcast. That's, of course, where I met you. I think that your work is superb, and I consider a real journalist, not these effing hacks that write a column, and when I'm looking at them, they have misspelled words and it's not pronounced correctly. It's like, it's ridiculous. Full Throttle Media is the real deal. I think everyone should check it out. I know the incredible UK Dazzler has dropped it in the chat a couple of times, so thank you for that. Tell everyone where they could follow you and obviously listen to you, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Boom. Again, honestly, genuinely appreciate your kind words so much. So you can follow me at Beetle Comet on Xbox Live, Twitter, Instagram, Mixer, YouTube, and all my website content can be found on fullthrottlemedia.co.uk. Just before Christmas, actually, I dropped my review for the Fortune Island expansion. Every week, we also cover all the new seasonal content that's coming into Forza Horizon 4. And on the top of our homepage, there's also some pinned stories from 2018 that were really nice, like the Forza Horizon 4 launch celebration at Goodwood, my interview feature story with Aaron Greenberg and Ralph Fulton. That's all there. So if you want to get some really in-depth, detailed Forza content, stuff you probably won't see anywhere else, then that's what I try to have on the website. I try to really just get down to the nitty-gritty and try to give out as much detail as possible.
Well, listen, dude, you know what? Like I said, your content is real. It's greatly appreciated. There's a lot of work that goes in on the back end. A lot of people know about that. And you can tell when you read it that you're not just copying, pasting like some other sites might do. I'm not going to mention names, but, you do good work. And I think you should be the most success should come your way because you guys deserve it. A lot of work over there. The Indie Gamer, dude, listen, again, you're a friend of mine from across the pond. We've never met in person, but you are a quality part of this community. When I say you're a hidden gem, no longer hidden, everyone knows that, they see you coming down the road with your glow, because you're a gem of this community. And I really do appreciate your passion and the way you talk about gaming. You can tell you're a gamer. Tell everyone where they could follow you, dude, and check out your channel more specifically.
Thank you so much, Boom. You honestly are one of the nicest guys around. You deserve all the success that you receive yourself too. Honestly, I really appreciate all your kind words. If you would like to follow me over on Twitter, I'm on Twitter as indie_gamer_01, and Daz has just dropped that in case I get that wrong, because I always seem to do that. I do like Boom said, I have a YouTube channel which I'm very early days in, sort of just trying to build up a bit of an audience. So it's if you wanted to come drop over to there, I'm actually going to be popping out a video quite soon. I'm trying to finish off. It's actually a Fortune Island review, so if you're interested in seeing that. So it might not be up to the journalism standards of Alan over here, but maybe drop over and just and see what you think. That's going to be hopefully over the next few days. Like I say, it's been absolutely awesome being on the show today. Everyone on here genuine top tier people, and it's been fantastic hanging with you all. So thank you very much, and awesome chat as always. You guys all rock over there. So thank you to everyone. Cheers, guys, and look forward to hopefully gaming with you all soon.
Yes, absolutely. And certainly last and not least, the man who has survived the sinking Florida that he's been talking about, the man who has been starving for a New York calzone because the bread and the water are so better over here than they are in Florida, my paisan Clowns. Listen, dude, you are one of the first people I met in this community. I think that you are as genuine a human being as I've ever met. You are always very helpful. I've bothered you with questions about this industry, and you were the first one to, outside of Jay and a few other people, to reach their hand out and said, "Hey, Boom, I'm here for you." You run Four Guys with Quarters. I think it's a fantastic podcast. I think more people should tune in. Tell everyone where they could find you, bro.
Hey, thanks, Boom. I appreciate that, man. Every Thursday, you can check us out, Four Guys with Quarters. Usually, it's like 5 or 5:30 now. It changes depending on Inferno's work schedule. I'm also doing a thing for GWQ Presents that I've been working on for a while with Sean Labrie. He's actually doing the artwork for it. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm also on the Tick podcast now on Saturday nights at 10:30 p.m. And we've just become affiliated with iHeartRadio. Like, we're on iHeartRadio now. So next, I'm working on cable television. And you can check us out everywhere on the internet. Four Guys with Quarters.
Yeah, excellent. And that's a good way to close it out. And actually run one real quick addition to the programming. A lot of people didn't know this. UK Dazarus and I have been working secretly behind the scenes. And on the 13th of January, the Dazcast will be coming back in a big way. It's going to be on my channel. I'm going to be hosting. Nothing's going to change in regards to the product. UK Dazarus is still the host, except it's just going to be hosted on my channel. It's a more of an adult themed, podcast for gamers. A lot of beer cracking, a lot of adult jokes. But you know what? I think it deserves an audience. And it's the first nighttime show that I'm going to do. And it's going to be happening once a month. Actually, on the 13th, which is a Sunday, happens to be UK Dazarus's birthday. So I wish everyone comes out on that particular day and give him a big, happy birthday. And then once a month, starting in February, it's probably going to be on Wednesdays around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But once we go through the details, we will be doing advertising for that, so you won't be in the dark.
I will be on that show as well.
Yes, you certainly will. That's right.
Honored to be invited. I'm that's going to be sweet. I'm excited.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, listen, that I forgot all about that, because he texted me this morning and said that you confirmed you're going to be on that. So that's going to be a fantastic show. I want to thank my panel once again. I want to thank the absolutely outstanding community with the way that you treat each other in the chat. The donations are greatly appreciated, and I want to wish everyone a fantastic weekend, and I will see you next week on the newest episode of Big Day, everybody.